It is Tuesday, March 17th. It is 7 o'clock, and this is Philadelphia Live on Fox Local and all streaming platforms. I'm Bill Anderson, and there's a lot going on tonight. As you can see, split up throughout the screen. So obviously, that's me. Good evening, everybody. But also, right off next to me is what's going on in Dublin, Ireland. It's St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day to all those who celebrate, as they are clearly doing there in Dublin, Ireland. We've checked in on this shot multiple times throughout the day. This has been going on for a minute, so people are festive, people are enjoying themselves, people are having a good time. And we actually just aired a little while ago on Fox 29 a special on Irish in Philadelphia, part of our America 250 celebration. So if you're interested in that, it's a really good special, very informative, interesting. You can go to Fox Local, where you are right now, hopefully, all streaming platforms. It's on demand if you would like to check it out. We also, as you can see in one bottom corner, that's PHL, it's Philadelphia International Airport. That is one of the many stories that we are following. All looks pretty calm and ordinary at PHL. But there is an ongoing challenge because the government has still not funded DHS. That means that TSA workers have now missed paychecks and are continuing to deal with long lines and potential delays. One, because they are short-staffed, and two, because a lot of people have called out that are piling on to that being short-staffed because they are not getting paid. And the government right now has not done anything to indicate that they are even close to fixing it, although earlier today they said that there have been some conversations. So that's the third block up on the screen. And speaking of the government and the challenges that the government is facing, this is a live shot on the Senate floor where they have been debating what President Trump is calling his primary priority. The most important thing. He even has gone so far as to say that he will not sign any other legislation if elected officials cannot pass the Save America Act. The Save America Act includes a lot of things. It is largely an act focused on, depending on who you ask, if it's President Trump, it is voter identification, verification, and what have you. That's what President Trump and the Republicans largely are saying. The Democrats are saying it is a bill that focuses on voter suppression, asking people for identification that many do not have and cannot afford to get, even if they have the resources. So what you're seeing, that's actually Delaware Senator Coons, who has just stepped up to the podium. We actually should listen in to him for just a minute, and I'll get right back to you.
Every American who falls in service to our nation overseas first returns to our soil. My state and the men and women of the Dover community and Dover Air Force Base have long considered it a sacred obligation, a blessing, and an opportunity to welcome the families who are grieving, to help prepare their sons and daughters for ultimate burial in their home states. And we have welcomed many senators from across the country to what's known as a dignified transfer, which they carry out with great solemnity. So let me join my colleagues from Ohio in expressing deep gratitude to the families of those who've fallen in action in the air over Iraq, and for their service and sacrifice, and for the support to the U.S. military that all of us should be offering at this time of great solemnity. With that, Mr. President, I'm going to turn to the issue of the day in front of this chamber. What is the issue of the day? It's a bill known as the SAVE Act. It's a bill that is principally focused on voter disenfranchisement and voter suppression. Americans today face a whole series of crises: the cost of living and the war in Iran. Our war of choice in Iran is now in its third week, and the cost to American families continues to rise. Prices, costs at home for consumers are rising as well. I just checked a few minutes ago, and a month ago in my home state of Delaware, a gallon of gas was $2.87. Today, it's $3.68. That's a 30% jump in just a month. The fastest increase in gas prices since the 1973 oil embargo. Nationally, a similar rise, 295 to 384. The larger point is most Americans know they're paying a lot more at the pump. They're paying more at the pump, and it's going to end up having all sorts of secondary consequences for costs. Because what passes through the Strait of Hormuz isn't just oil. It's oil, it's natural gas, it's petrochemicals, it's fertilizers, it's helium. It's a whole series of things essential to our modern economy. We are on the verge of planting season. It will soon be spring. And American farmers are seeing their fertilizer prices jump as well. You might not have ever thought of it, but helium is absolutely critical to a whole series of advanced industrial products, both medical and semiconductor. And it's a byproduct of natural gas production. Most of the world's helium also passes through the Strait of Hormuz. And as I'm sure you've heard many times today on the news and on the floor, Iran has blocked the Strait of Hormuz, not for Iranian ships, not for allied ships going to China or to other countries, but for the United States and our allies. We've watched steadily in the last few years as our adversaries have come closer and closer together. Iran, China, North Korea, Russia. These four countries have deep and rapidly deepening partnerships in military security, in cyber offense, in support for terrorism throughout the world. And President Trump chose to take us to war against Iran. Recent polling of Americans shows that by an 18 percentage point margin, the Americans polled actually think President Trump is focused on the wrong thing. That instead of focusing on the cost of living, instead of focusing on growing our economy, instead of focusing on making American manufacturing and innovation strong again, he's focused on the war in Iran. And here in the Senate of the United States, we're focused on a bill that will take away the chance to vote for millions of Americans. In 2024, 48 million Americans voted by mail. Vote by mail has been the law for decades in several of our Western states. It's secure, it's been shown to be resistant to fraud, and it is a long-standing tradition.
This is actually live, and we wanted to get you kind of caught up on what's going on. So this debate on the Save America Act has been going on for hours. It will continue to go on. We have been clipping sound from both Republicans and Democrats. We will play that for you so you have an understanding about what this is. But it is essentially what President Trump has labeled as his top priority, saying his words, saying that you must be able to prove your citizenship when you go and vote. Voter ID, obviously, there are discussions about women and men and women's sports. There are a handful of priorities that he has put in this bill, and he said he wants it passed. And so they have been debating back and forth about whether or not it is in the best interest of the public. And we will jump into that as we continue on throughout the evening, as long as it goes on. And then we have some of the clips. It's actually really interesting hearing the two sides that are way far apart on a pretty basic issue. Let's get caught up. So we've had weather jumping all over the place. We have had snowstorms. We have had record warmth. We have had windstorms last evening. And Scott Williams, now all of a sudden it's cold again. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's the month of March, Bill. We talked a little bit about this. It's kind of like the battle of the air masses. Yeah, last week we had temperatures in the 80s, but just yesterday we had temperatures in the upper 60s to around 70 degrees. That line of showers and thunderstorms, though, in particular that second one that moved through from 9 p.m. until about midnight, produced damaging winds, a widespread gust, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, to 70 miles per hour or greater. So we kind of went back in time, if you will. This is the radar from last night. If you were watching us, we were tracking that severe weather moving through the area. And then on the back side of it, the cold air, it's been rushing in. We saw a brief changeover to some snow showers late last night. But today, parts of the area, some flurries have been occurring far north and west. But let's talk a little bit about the storm system that was about 24 hours ago. We were watching things kind of progress across the area. And take a look at this. I mean, this is a look at the velocity comparing kind of like the inbound and outbound winds toward the radar and away from the radar. But that line that moved through the Delaware Valley was packing a punch with winds gusting over 70 miles per hour. Trees down, branches, damage occurred across parts of the area due to just some straight line winds preliminary for most of the area. Now, the National Weather Service went down into Maryland, the eastern shore of Maryland, confirming EF1 tornado there with winds of up to 100 miles per hour. That was Caroline County there in Maryland that borders, of course, Kent County and parts of Sussex County. They're still going to be surveying that damage, still waiting on a late word from the Weather Service regarding that. It may take them some time to kind of assess the damage and give us an accurate report of everything that happened before we put everything out. So as far as what's happening now, this is live, and we are looking at a few snow showers off to the west of us, and some flurries have even been reported as far to the south and east as some of the Pennsylvania suburbs. So don't be surprised if you see a few flurries out there here on this St. Patrick's Day. We're talking about some of those flurries flying north and west, in particular as you get toward the Poconos, parts of the Lehigh Valley. No accumulation expected, but nonetheless, I mean, it's just kind of a shock to the system again to be talking about wintry precipitation. There have been advisories, there have been snow squall warnings in and around Interstate 80, so to the west of us, moving back toward places like Erie, Pennsylvania, as well as the Pittsburgh vicinity. They've been talking about some snow that actually has been accumulating. So some of the current wind gusts out there, you can see gusting to 30 miles per hour, Philadelphia, as well as for Atlantic City. So another breezy day, those winds making it feel a little colder. Live look at the Philadelphia International Airport. That camera still shaking, not as much as it was yesterday at this hour. And there still has been that ripple effect with some of those delays and cancellations across the area as well. The temperatures over the next several hours will be dipping into the low 30s, close to freezing by midnight for the Philadelphia area, but some of the outlying suburbs will already have dipped below freezing this evening, so just keep that in mind. And take a look at the low temperatures for tonight. The average low this time of year should be around 34 degrees, and we are going to be talking about temperatures that will be dipping into the 20s. I mean, take a look at this. More typical of kind of the dead of winter. I mean, it is going to be brutal overnight tonight and first thing for tomorrow with those wind chills that could dip into the teens for some locations. So here's a look at your forecast for tomorrow. This is not a typo, folks. We're talking about temperatures starting in the 20s and only likely topping out in the upper 30s for most locations. The high temperature today for Philadelphia, by the way, was 43 degrees. That's 10 degrees below average for this time of year. So these numbers more typical of January as opposed to where we should be for this time of year in March. Now take a live look, the Center City skyline. We've had some clouds. We could even see a flake or a flurry or two make its way all the way to the Philadelphia area. So once again, watching just kind of that cold air pushing to the south and east overnight tonight. 38 degrees is the current temperature for Center City. So folks have been grabbing their winter jackets, their coats, and their sweaters again after that kind of fake spring that we had last week. So here's a live look right now at the current temperatures. Look at the Poconos. 24 degrees is the current number. 31 right now in Allentown, so already below freezing far north and west. Mid-30s in Doylestown. I mean, this is just bizarre, but not out of the question for this time of year. So roller coaster temperatures over the next several days. Headed into the weekend, we actually start to warm things up. So a quick check of the 7-day forecast. So we'll show you kind of those numbers going back into the upper 50s by Friday and then into the 60s for the weekend. But early next week, back to chilly again. Next Monday, 45 degrees. Bill, back over to you.
All right, Scott, I'm just going to accept it. You said it's March, Bill. I'm going to accept that. Now let's get to April. then hopefully things
April
will go ahead
Fools.
and smooth out, right?
April Fools.
I know, right? Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. We will check in with you periodically throughout the evening, obviously, as we continue to get weather updates. The weather that Scott was talking about, that roller coaster ride up and down yesterday and into this morning, we've been dealing with significant winds. And I guess that wind had an impact on Dawn's story, a major impact as a tree fell on a truck. Hey, Dawn.
Hey, Bill. Yeah, we are on Earls Lane in Newtown Square, the scene of a really tragic freak accident. A tree trimmer was actually killed. You can see in the front yard of his home where work was being done, the equipment is still just sitting there. Tree limbs are scattered about. It was about 11 o'clock this morning, and a local tree trimmer with an area company was working on trees on the other side of the yard. You can see where branches have been cut off the tree, working on trees across the street here, when a tree just fell on top of him, this massive tree over here. It was totally unrelated to the work that he was doing, and it just stunned everyone. A neighbor who works from home next door said he at first didn't really think much about it because he could hear the work being done all day, but then he realized, this was about 11 o'clock this morning, that something was really wrong.
I heard tree falling all morning. I mean, they were obviously doing tree work, and if you look in the backyard, there's a bunch of tree limbs that are down. So yeah, I mean, it was happening, recurring, nonstop for the better part of the morning. But I didn't know it. I didn't know that, obviously the tragedy that occurred. We do get, trees falling down quite a bit, so there is a need to constantly maintain your trees. But I mean, that's just a terrible, terrible incident.
And I don't know if you can see, there is a huge tree down in the backyard of this home. And the neighbor was telling me that they, have been dealing with all these trees coming down because of the recent storms, not just from last night, but from last week. And because this is kind of a heavily wooded neighborhood, it's something that is constantly on their minds. Bill, I spoke very briefly to the owner of the tree company. He was extremely distraught. He really had nothing to say. He told me he was just too upset to talk. The only thing he did say was the employee had worked for him for some time. Obviously really sad and upsetting. OSHA was also on site this evening, and they are investigating exactly what happened. It's unclear why this tree came down, if its roots were just loosened in all these storms we've been having. But again, it was completely unrelated to the work that the local tree trimmer was doing.
Wow, that's a shame. All right, Dawn, thank you for the update. Just one of those things, a tragedy. And we'll continue to get information up on our website, as is always the case, as people look for ways to support the family or the company or what have you. And you will see more on Dawn's story a little bit later on. Thank you, Dawn Timoney, for the update. We're going to get back into what we were looking into earlier as it relates to the ongoing debate about the Save America Act. Now, just for clarity, let me explain very quickly, because the elected officials are going back and forth, and we are streaming live, obviously, on Fox Local, but on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and what have you. And I'm in the chat room on TikTok, and several people have had questions about what the SAVE Act actually does. And many people have said we already have to have ID to register and to vote, and in many states you do have to show ID. The challenge with this act, or the disagreement with this act, is that, one, you would have to show ID to vote. There is not as much of a disagreement by party on that part of it. The part that has led to the huge disagreement is that the act would mandate that you prove your citizenship for federal voter registration. The problem with that is that the only forms of identification that they are accepting would be a United States passport or your birth certificate. And apparently in different independent groups have said there are over 100 million Americans who do not have a passport. There are another 30 million who do not have access to their birth certificate. A passport costs about $150. A birth certificate, to get it, costs about $30. The other challenge with that is that the birth certificate, in order for you to register and prove your citizenship, would have to have your current name. So if you are a woman who has gotten married and there's a different name on the birth certificate, you then have to go back and prove what your name is. And according to the act as it is currently written, your marriage certificate and license would not be sufficient to prove that name change, nor would a name change document that you file. So that's part of where the difference is. So they have said that if this passed, again, there is political division on this. Some of the independent groups have said that if it passes, there would be people who would be kicked off the voter rolls immediately, and many women, married or people who have taken another name, would then face a huge challenge in trying to prove their citizenship. These are not issues that cannot be overcome, and that is the reason why this debate and discussion is going forward. But I wanted to explain that based on some of the questions that are being presented in the chat room. That is largely the basis of the disagreement and why they are so far apart and so far have not found a solution. So let's get back to it. They have been debating and discussing this all day. It's the Save America Act.
At some point, I'm told you are going to move to end debate on this. That means 60 votes. You don't have 60 votes. Why go through this? Is this basically just a show?
Well, I mean, we don't know that we don't have 60 votes yet. You're
You
making
don't
an
have
assumption.
Multiple members of your conference say that there aren't even 51 votes.
Yeah, well, and you're making an assumption that at the end of this debate that none of the Democrats will be won over. And I'm not saying that I appreciate your skepticism, but I think it's an important debate to have because it is an issue that is at the very core of elections in this country. And I think this is something that the American people care about, something that we've obviously heard a lot about from constituents across this country, and I think it's an important debate to have. So how it ends remains to be seen. There will be a point at which it will end, and there will be a series of votes that come with that. And but I'm at the end of the day, I just don't know how you defend a position that you need to be a citizen in this country, not only to register to vote, but also to be able to show an ID when you vote. And we'll see how long the Democrats want to defend that position, and maybe none of them will be won over at the end. That's entirely possible. But I think the having the fight, having the debate on the floor of the Senate is important.
There are a number of military analysts have suggested that the only way to open up the Strait of Hormuz would be for American ground troops to get involved in the fight in Iran. If it requires that step, should the president come to Congress for authority first? And what is your personal opinion of ground troops being involved in this conflict?
I think right now the president is well within his authority. Even if you accept war as powers as being constitutional, he has 60 days to, and I think they've had a lot of success in achieving their objectives. And I think that you will continue to see those objectives achieved. If you talk to our military leadership, our war planners, I think they're doing a masterful job of taking out most of the Iranian military capabilities, whether nuclear or conventional. The Strait of Hormuz obviously is an issue that we're all paying a lot of attention to. But I feel confident that the administration and those who are leading our military efforts there ultimately will be successful in getting things opened up there.
Do you think ground troops are necessary? Would you support ground troops?
I'm not ruling anything in or out. I think that's obviously a decision that ultimately our war planners have to make, but I don't believe, at least from everything I've been told, that that's something that is being contemplated. But Senator Cotton is the chair of our Intelligence Committee, and you want anything you want to add?
I would just say that it's been an extraordinarily successful campaign over the last couple of weeks. Our military objectives are being accomplished day after day. It's a methodical and deliberate effort because it's a very big country with a lot of weapons. But anyone who says that we're already losing or we're in a quagmire or the president can't succeed because of the threat that Iran poses to the Hormuz right now is akin to saying Eisenhower is losing because he hadn't made it to Berlin within 2 weeks of D-Day. It's going to take some time to achieve those military objectives, but in the end, we will have defanged the Iranian regime. Their missile forces, their drones, their missile launchers, their manufacturing capability will be ended. Their nuclear program will once again be pulverized, And specifically with the threat of Strait of Hormuz, it's understandable that we had to prioritize the long-range weapons first that could strike into Europe or the Indian Ocean or our bases or Israel and Arab nations. It's the weapons that can threaten Hormuz can be fairly crude and rudimentary rockets, for instance. There'll be a time for those, and that time is coming. And like the president said, we shouldn't rule in or out any option, but obviously it was a very carefully planned operation, and I commend the leaders of our military and our operational commanders and the troops who are executing it to a T every single day, reducing Iran's military power to rubble.
But Senator, can I ask you, you have advocated for this operation to wrap up sooner rather than later. Do you still hold that opinion, and what do you put that into context for us?
I'm not sure I've advocated for it to wrap up on any specific timetable. I've said that based on my conversations with the president and my understanding of Iran's military capabilities, I would expect it to take weeks, not days. And we're only a couple weeks into it. And again, every single day brings hundreds, if not thousands, of strikes into Iran that steadily and methodically degrades their military. And the end state will be a country without the defensive or without the offensive capabilities to continue to terrorize the United States, Israel, our Arab friends, and the civilized world.
You said that floor time is the coin of the realm.
Right.
How does it help you if you are using up valuable floor time by having an extended debate on this issue, the SAVE Act, when you have other consequential legislation to deal with, such as a war supplemental, maybe a farm bill, other things that the country needs to have addressed?
There are other things that we will have to deal with, but we have a window of time here. And obviously we slotted this in after passing the housing bill, which was a big bipartisan win last week, got almost 90 votes in the United States Senate. So there are other issues, as you point out, potentially supplemental. We haven't seen that yet, but there is a farm bill. There's permitting reform. Senator Capito will be in the lead on, possibly market structure legislation dealing with digital assets. Could be a farm bill, highway bill. There are a number of things that we can do, and I hope we will be able to do. But we have a unique moment in time here right now to address an issue that there is a great deal of public support around, and I think it's an issue that's really fundamental and important to free and fair elections in this country. And so we're going to continue to have that debate.
One of your members, Senator Mike Lee, has suggested that Republicans who don't support a talking filibuster to pass this should be replaced or primaried. What's your response to him, and what do you make of his tactics around this bill?
Well, again, I'm always, I prefer to have our fights with Democrats. I'm always someone who believes that it's far better for us to have a majority in the United States Senate, and to have a majority. There are certain places where you don't, the same Republican in Arkansas, for example, is not going to be the same as a Republican in Maine or someplace in New England. So obviously we're not going to agree on every issue, but I think on the core issues, you kind of come back to the Reagan doctrine and recognize that somebody is with you 80 or 90% of the time. I think most of our colleagues vote with the president north of 90% of the time are allies. And so we may not agree on everything, but I'm way more in favor of ensuring that we have Republicans holding these seats in the United States Senate than handing them to Democrats. Yep.
Why is the filibuster more important than stopping illegals from voting?
Well, look, I mean, I think that there are many ways in which you can stop illegals from voting, and a lot of states have some of those measures already in place. But I do think the filibuster, or maybe more specifically, the concept that the founders had for the United States Senate was that there would be one body that was majoritarian and one that wasn't. And so they divided power in a way that enabled the United States Senate, in which we have 6-year terms, staggered terms, more of a methodical way about going about solving the country's problems, and generally in ways that ensure that there are bipartisan majorities in which to accomplish that. So, and frankly, I mean, I think I can't speak for all my colleagues, but a lot of our colleagues believe that many of the things that Democrats want to do, and when they tried to nuke the filibuster a couple of years ago, were all things that we don't want to have our fingerprints on. Whether that's adding D.C. and Puerto Rico as states or expanding the Supreme Court. You can go right down the laundry list of nationalizing elections. You can go right down the laundry list of things that I think there are a lot of myself and my colleagues have grave concerns about if the Democrats ever had that power handed to them. So it's throughout history, it's protected Republicans and conservative priorities and principles a lot more often than it's protected Democrats.
So illegals voting and the other things that are in the Save America Act do not approach an existential threat to our democracy. It's just something that can be casually dealt with, not worth losing the filibuster.
I don't think it's being casually dealt with. We're going to have a spirited debate on the floor here, and as I said earlier, states have the authority to do this already. My state has those requirements in place. So this is a way of ensuring at the federal level that we have a requirement that if you want to vote in this country, you have to register, and you also have to have an ID to vote. But that's something that's done in some fashion in 36 states already. Last question.
For either of you or any of you here, has the White House indicated possible timing on a supplemental for Iran? And when do you think, because you also have to deal with wartime if that comes along.
Right, and I haven't heard with respect to timing or what the components of that might be. I don't know if Senator Cotton has heard anything more specifically on that, but there is an expectation, I think, at some point that there may be a request for some additional resources, to enable them to continue to complete the mission and achieve the objectives that they've set out to achieve with Iran. But we'll be prepared to take that at any time that the administration sends it up. We'll certainly give it due consideration. There are other elements and perhaps it might come with that, but we're not fully aware of those yet because we haven't seen anything just yet. But we will consider it in due time when it comes. Thank you all.
So that was the Senate Republicans' press conference earlier today on the Save America Act. The Senate Democrats followed up. We will play that shortly. We also have, they're actually still live on the Senate floor discussing and debating this. It has been going on for hours. We're going to take a break, but again, a couple of quick things, and I'm in the chat room. A couple of things that people are pointing out. Yes, the Save America Act does talk about banning mail-in ballots, but a couple of people have talked about the military. There is an exemption in it for military, for people who are actually abroad, for people who can't. So essentially what they are trying to ban is discretionary mail-in ballots. If you have a valid reason that you have to vote as a mail-in ballot, there is an exemption in the bill. But yeah, I mean, I would encourage people to read it. We will continue to play sound bites and the statements on both sides. But first, we're going to take a break. It's Philadelphia Live on Fox Local and all streaming platforms. And we'll be right back. Philadelphia Live on Fox Local. It's about 7:35. I'm Bill Anderson, and we've been talking about a lot of different things going on with the government. One of those things is the DHS, TSA, lack of funding, the government at kind of an impasse. Our Sarah Allegre has been looking into this literally for, I think, Sarah, when we talked earlier, you said you got to the airport for the early rounds to see people traveling at like 4, 5, 6 a.m. Is this true?
Yeah, I had a bit of an early wake-up call because that's what I heard. This was going to be the worst, and so I said, I have to go experience it for myself, be there in action, the journalist in me. So I was there early this morning to talk to people at ungodly hours, but relatively, people were in the mood to talk that early in the morning, and surprisingly, I was too, to kind of talk about their experience. And today was a crazy day, but it was nowhere near as bad as what people experienced yesterday. So we are seeing some good news, at least in that regard. But yes, Bill, you are correct. I was up at the crack of dawn this morning, unfortunately. But here I am talking to you, still standing, and happy to chat.
So, couple things. First of all, I will no longer complain about my long and late hours when I am talking to you, at least for today. Secondly, so there are, you're not seeing the kind of delays and the pushback that you've seen before. Are you seeing people's attitudes staying upbeat? Are people kind of dealing with this? Are people getting angry and frustrated?
Bill, I go back to what we talked about last week when we talked about the perspective shift that we've seen. I think for a lot of people, they understand what these TSA agents are going through now, second week without a paycheck. And so I think a lot of them are keeping that in mind. With that, yes, of course, there is this layer of frustration as well, looking at the why behind this. Congress has been locked really for weeks now with that federal funding for the Department of Homeland Security over immigration reform. And so seeing that back and forth in D.C. and seeing the implications that it's having here with our everyday lives, yeah, there's definitely concern, there's frustration too, but I think there's a lot of empathy right now for those TSA agents who are showing up to work each day. And we're not seeing that in some airports because they have to compensate, they have to provide other ways, find other ways rather to make money for their day-to-day lives, for their families, or whatever financial need. So I think there's some understanding too at play here. And even though we were all up early in the morning and dealing with the long lines and the chaos of it all, people still were in relatively good spirits, and there's a lot of good staff here just keeping the ball rolling, keeping things moving. And I think that's the most important thing. As long as the lines aren't stagnant, that's definitely a better option, even though you're dealing with the long lines. So things went smooth today.
Okay, so you've been looking into this. We're still at kind of an impasse, and as you follow up on this, we're still not really seeing any progress, right? They did say today that there was another proposal sent over, but there's no indication that we're any closer to solving this.
Yeah, some days you take an inch forward and then you take a couple of steps back. And so that's what we've been seeing. We know we got this update from the DHS earlier, and they were more so kind of pointing to the reality at hand. And of course, there's the blame game that's going on as well. They were saying earlier, though, we're looking at airports in Houston specifically. If you're looking at TSA callouts, what we saw Sunday and Monday, well, that rose by 50%. So you're still seeing the issue there take place. And then same story for New Orleans and Atlanta. Callouts were at 30%, 30% rise rather. So at the end of the day, the story still stands here today. We are seeing this situation per se worsen at a lot of these big and major airports that many travelers cross through. So you may think, oh, this isn't really impacting me, at least for now, but maybe somewhere you're going to or trying to get home from, well, that's being impacted. So definitely something travelers need to keep in mind. I mean, we're all susceptible during this time of uncertainty.
All right, Sarah, now can you go get some rest? Are you done?
I got 2 more hits, Bill, and then I am off to get some Z's, all right? So we can do this all again tomorrow. But yes, a couple more live shots with you all, and then I'm going to bed.
You're a trooper. We appreciate you, Sarah Allegre. Thank you very much. And we will talk to you again tomorrow. Whoa, I was like, we're up till 10 o'clock. We're doing our stuff here. Sarah went 6A to 8P today on this story. Good for her. Going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Again, the conversation continues on as we take a look at Dublin for what's going on for St. Patrick's Day, but the discussion is really heating up on the Fox 29 TikTok page. So if you want to jump in on this discussion on the Save America Act, you can jump in there. There's a lot of questions about what's going on. And next, after the break, we will hear the Dems' perspective on this, their presser they had a little bit earlier. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. .742, it's Philadelphia Live on Fox Local. A lot of different things going on. So we've got the World Baseball Classic, we've got March Madness, we've got Eagles. Breland, we got a lot to get caught up on. What's going on?
Oh, you guys can hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I was like trying to figure out. I had an article up on Max Crosby that I was reading because we couldn't hear me for a while. So yeah, I'm like, are you coming out here? Like, what's going on?
We were trying to figure it out, but we just roll with it.
A lot happening today. So yes, World Baseball Classic coming up in just a little bit. USA against Venezuela down in Miami. Jason Martinez and I were talking about it a little bit on the Fantastic Sports Show that this is going to be a really interesting crowd because of the very large population, the Latin population down in Miami. I think we might get some fans from both sides here, so it's going to make for a really electric atmosphere, and hopefully, we'll get a good game down there that we can, of course, watch on Fox 29, and we'll be on the air afterwards, but and to talk about it. But yeah, really, really exciting. Hopefully, Bryce Harper can finally get himself going. It's kind of been a little bit of an interesting tournament for him, and by interesting I mean lackluster, which is not necessarily the result you want to see from someone who took so much offense when he was called not elite. So hopefully he gets himself going here. But yeah, it's coming up in just a little bit.
Yeah, he looks like, I'm no baseball expert, but he looks like he's pressing. Like he's just trying to do too much to dig himself out of a hole. And that's interesting for somebody with kind of his history of being able to work through these things. At some point, you get a little concerned.
Yeah, I'm not super concerned. We'll see how it goes. Now, remember, we saw the complete opposite of this situation going on with Trey Turner a couple of years ago, where he had a phenomenal WBC outing. And then he comes back to Philadelphia, gets going here, and it was so stinky that he needed a standing ovation from Citizens Bank Park to shake off the slump. So Who knows? I'm not necessarily super concerned, but it doesn't necessarily make me excited to see what Bryce has to offer this year. So hopefully he can get himself going here.
Turn it all around in one night. All right, so we've got multiple teams that we are rooting for as the NCAA tournaments get started.
Yes, so you've got a ton to look out for. First of all, both Villanova teams are on their way. Well, not actually on their way just yet. They'll leave tomorrow. The Villanova women going to take on Texas Tech down in Baton Rouge. Meanwhile, the Villanova men are headed out to play Utah State in San Diego. Like I said, both of them will be playing Friday, so they'll both be leaving tomorrow. Meanwhile, Penn is officially on the road. They're ready to go, and they left campus earlier today. They are going to be down in Greenville, South Carolina, taking on Illinois, which is a really, really tough matchup for the Quakers. But hey, you know, we've seen, that's why it's called March Madness, right? We've seen some magic happen in this tournament, so definitely do not count them out. And then if you want to take a look up at the Lehigh Valley, Lehigh University in the tournament for the first time since 2012. Remember that game, that C.J. McCollum game where Lehigh beat Duke? Oh, what a moment for the Mountain Hawks. They will be playing in the first four, so they'll be out in Dayton. A lot going on here.
And then quickly, one last thing. So the Eagles sign a receiver.
Yes.
Not a superstar, but a quality player. It just kind of seems like people need to temper their expectations. This was not the star move.
Correct. And I don't know why or how this narrative of this is A.J. Brown's replacement or, oh my gosh, is an indication that they're definitely getting rid of A.J. Brown. No, I don't understand where that's coming from. I think that's very bizarre of a leap to take on this. Hollywood Brown is obviously very talented because he plays in the NFL, and anytime you play in the NFL, you're a talented athlete. That being said, he's not wide receiver one quality, all right? The guy had less than 600 yards last year and only 5 touchdowns, which that's great for a wide receiver 3. So this is more of a Jahan Dotson's replacement. Obviously, Devontae Smith is still there, but this is a depth move. This is nothing more than that. That being said, I'm not necessarily counting out an A.J. Brown trade. I did absolutely think he was going to be here through that June 1st cutoff period. But what I think is going to be a real indicator on the A.J. Brown chatter and where the Eagles actually are on this is what they do during the draft. Do they draft a receiver very high? If yes, then absolutely Howie's making some moves. But I mean, when you look at the Jalen Waddle trade to the Broncos, that really set the precedent. I think Howie could ask for the moon at that point, and the price would not be too high for a receiver of that quality of A.J. Brown.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Waddle is not in his class, and they got a first-round pick.
Correct.
So, interesting. All right, Breland, thank you very much. We will check in with you in a little bit. Let us know if anything exciting happens in the World Baseball Classic. We will be watching as well. All right, guys, so a little bit earlier, we've been talking about this, the big political news. That's hard to say when we're, engaged in a conflict with Iran and there are all sorts of issues going on. But what President Trump has said is his #1 priority is the Save America Act. They have been debating it all day on the House floor since earlier this afternoon. They continue to do it. A little while ago, we heard the Republicans' perspective as they held a press conference saying that part of the reason they're doing this is because they want the Democrats to have to explain why they would oppose the Save America Act. That's why this ongoing debate and a test vote today. This is not an actual vote that is scheduled to test vote. The Democrats then stepped up to the podium and gave their answers to why they oppose the Save America Act.
Okay, if MAGA Republicans want to bog down the Senate over a debate on voter suppression, Democrats are ready. We're ready to be here all day, all night, as long as it takes to ensure the powers of voter suppression do not win the day. Let me be very clear. The SAVE Act is not a voter ID bill. It is in every sense a voter suppression bill. It could purge millions of American citizens from the voter rolls through a screening algorithm designed by Elon Musk's Doge Squad. It could disenfranchise over 20 million Americans. It would kill online voter registration. It would kill online vote by mail. It would kill vote by mail. It would kill motor voter registration. What does any of that have to do with election security? It doesn't. It's a naked attempt to rig our elections. The SAVE Act also rejects the most common forms of ID for anyone trying to register. Driver licenses, no longer enough. Not even military IDs would be enough. That is radical. It would force Americans to register only in person, something only 5% of Americans do. And as a result, you could show up at your voting place, the same place you voted 2 years ago, same ID, same everything, and they could say, sorry, you're no longer on the rolls, and then you couldn't vote. It's an outrageous proposition. It also punishes married women who change their last names. The SAVE Act is not about protecting the vote. It's about making it harder to vote and easier to steal an election. And we know what the deal is here. Donald Trump says if Republicans pass the SAVE Act, it guarantees the midterm. The senior senator from Utah says Republicans will lose power, likely for a long time, if they don't get the Save American Act passed. That's the whole game. It's cynical. It's beneath the Senate. It's beneath democracy. Senate Democrats will never let this rotten bill move through this body. Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Schumer. I guess I'd ask our Republican colleagues, why aren't they focused on the Save America Money Act right now? Because that's what I'm hearing at home. They cannot believe what's happened with the gas prices. And you look at it, up $30, $40 a barrel. Every $10 increase a barrel is $450 a year for the average American family. You look at what happened with electricity prices, up an average of $110 last year on America's bill. Look at what's happened with groceries. That's what they should be focusing on. And those are their unpopular policies from tariffs on that have gotten us to this point. So what is their answer? Is their answer to stop the tariffs? Is their answer to do something about electricity prices? No, it's the opposite. They're taking energy off the grid. So what are they doing instead? They're trying to take people off the voter rolls and ram through their elections just like that. Trump said it himself. If Republicans pass this bill, the Save America Act, it'll guarantee the midterms. That's not my quote. That's what he said. What does it do? As Senator Schumer just explained, it kicks American citizens off of state voter rolls. Their data is going to be turned over to the Department of Homeland Security, the same agency that brought us ICE, and then driven through some error-ridden Elon Musk Doge algorithm to target voters that are kicked off the rolls, and then they're supposed to give that information back to the state. What else does it do? It creates complicated and costly bureaucratic hurdles for Americans to either register to vote or to re-register if they're like those 69 million women who happened to decide to change their name when they got married. Millions of American citizens don't have the specific documents proving what they're asking them to prove. American citizens. Half of all Americans, 146 million, don't have a passport. Passports cost at least $150. Birth certificates can cost $30 or more and take hours of in-person time to obtain. And in a state like mine, which a bunch of people living in rural Minnesota, in many rural places it takes an average of 4.5 hours round trip to prove citizenship in person. And when it comes to one of those amendments to ban vote by mail, 48 million people voted by mail in 2024. So why don't they face the voters? What are they afraid of? Maybe they should change their policies or change their candidates. But they should not be messing around with America's right to vote. And with that, Alex Padilla, the ranking member of the Senate Rules Committee.
Thank you, Senator Klobuchar. Thank you, Leader Schumer. So here we go. Senate Republicans are continuing their assault on democracy as they are moving the Senate to now take up the so-called Save America Act. I like your name, but I have a different one.
Okay.
This is the Save Republicans from the Wrath of Voters Act. because that's what this is. This is not a voter ID bill, as you will hear them claim. This is not an election integrity bill, as you will hear them claim. Before coming to the Senate, I served as California Secretary of State, so I know a thing or two about how elections work and how secure they are. What this bill is a voter suppression bill. It's a voter purging bill. At a time when prices on everything keep going up, from groceries to housing to childcare and energy, gas alone has gone up 25% since Trump's unauthorized war on Iran, and it's still rising. In addition to that, yes, we still have armed, lawless federal agents roaming the streets of communities across the country. And every day that goes by, we are drawn further and further into this quagmire in the Middle East. I point this all out because that's what the American people are seeing. They see it on the news, and we hear it from them when we talk to our constituents. American families are paying the price for this failed administration. And Donald Trump and our Republican colleagues know all too well that unless they change the rules for November, they're going to have a poor showing in the midterm elections. That's what this is about. And that's exactly what the bill aims to do. To share voter data with DHS that has nothing to do with administering elections? Their only responsibility is to support cybersecurity of elections, and they're going backwards even on that responsibility. To make it harder for eligible Americans to register to vote, to stay registered to vote, and to cast their ballot, it's un-American, but they see it as their only chance of staying in power after the midterms. You heard the quote from Donald Trump. You've heard the quote from Senator Lee. I'll add to that Secretary Noem, remember her? Secretary Noem's own words when she was in Arizona a couple of weeks ago. They want to pass the SAVE Act so that, quote, they have the right people voting, electing the right leaders. They've been saying the quiet part out loud for a long time now. They're not even trying to hide it. And so we're here to say we will do what it takes to kill this bill. All day, all night, days on end, into the weekend, weeks if they want. We will do what it takes to kill this bill. Thank you.
Okay, questions? Yes.
Senate Democrats have sent a counterproposal to the White House on DHS funding. Should we read this as a sign that the two sides are making some progress on getting that agency reopened?
Well, look, we did send those over to the White House last night, we're trying to move a little bit, but they've got to get serious. They're not getting serious. The key issues of warrants, when you bust in someone's house, the key issue of identity of police and no masks, they haven't budged on those. They got to get serious. Yes.
When it comes specifically to trying to pass some kind of DHS bill, though, at this point, given the TSA lines, given the difficulty that people are having in the airport, given the missed paychecks, why not just sit in a room together? Why haven't there been any in-person negotiations?
We've been talking to each other. The two sides have been talking to each other day in, day out. And as I said, one of the key issues that we have been having a discussion about are the warrants and the masking. The issue is not the means of communication. The means is the substance of the reality that they won't budge yet on those two issues. We're hoping they will. And as for the TSA lines, very simple. They blocked the bill that we put forward that said fund the TSA, no ands, ifs, or buts. So you ought to ask the Republicans about that.
I like your tie.
Thank you.
Very nice. Speaker Johnson said this wasn't green. Does this look green to you?
It's green enough. You know what Tip O'Neill said? The more Irish you are, the less green you wear on St. Patrick's Day.
Well, I'm pretty Irish.
So I am not so Irish.
I want to ask you about the SAVE Act. I know that there are a number of aspects of it which you've outlined that you're unhappy with. But would you be willing to negotiate with Republicans just around something that would require a photo ID for everyone that comes to the ballot box?
Look, I'm not going to speculate in details. You know what our objection is. Our objection as Democrats is not to a photo ID. You'd have to define it clearly and properly and easily, but not to a photo ID when you show up to vote. Our objection is it's a voter suppression bill. 20 million, maybe more people, when they show up to vote, will be told, you're off the rolls. That's the problem with the bill. Last one.
In terms of the Democrats' ability to block this in the minority, are you confident Democrats can block the Save America Act? And furthermore, do you regret your decision several years ago during the Biden administration to gut the Senate's attempt to gut
On
the
the answer to the
Senate's
first
filibuster?
one, we are resolute, and our caucus, you should have heard people in there, are firm. This would be a destruction of our democracy, a violation of people's right to vote, the most fundamental and sacred thing we have in America, probably more than anything we've seen in probably a century, and certainly in decades. So we are resolute in doing that. Democrats are always willing to do what we can to move voting rights forward. This moves voting rights way, way back.
Do you regret trying to gut the filibuster?
And so that was the Senate Democrats' response to the Senate Republicans' press conference earlier. Are they still on the floor debating this? Yes. So they are still. This is now a live shot from the Senate floor. This discussion started about 4 this afternoon, and they are going back and forth. So there is supposed to be what they call a test vote later on this evening after everybody who wants to talk gets finished pushing their perspective, the reasons why they have various issues. There is a test vote just so they can see how many votes they have. It is right now, they are saying that earlier today there were multiple Republicans who are not on board, not multiple, like 4 Republicans who are not on board with the Save America Act. They have said. Now, how they will vote, that's part of the reason that they have the test to see where the numbers lie. The challenge in getting it passed is you would need 51 votes in Senate to pass, and they have that many to get a simple majority for the test vote. But if you were trying to make it into law with filibuster rules and all the complicated things, you would need 60 votes, and it is highly unlikely that those 60 exist. But there is a lot of procedure back and forth. And so this discussion that they're having this evening is supposed to be an opportunity for both sides to explain to the voting public the reasons why they either should or should not support the SAVE Act. Let's take a quick break and then we will come back. We will dip into that, get you caught up on everything that they are saying. This is Philadelphia Live on Fox Local. I'm Bill Anderson. 8:05 Philadelphia Live on Fox Local and all streaming platforms. I got to tell you that some of our social media, streaming, the chat rooms are having at it. People are expressing themselves. I actually have a chat room open here next to me, in front of me, so I'm seeing a lot of the conversations going back. People are really interested and debating a lot of things political. So we will get back to that shortly. We're also going to get you caught up on a lot of the local stories that we are following. And one of them is it's March, Scott. So we're going to have crazy weather all over the place.
Yeah, I like to call it March Madness in the weather department, Bill Anderson. We're talking temperatures that are still kind of up and down. You don't really know what to wear. Multiple wardrobe changes in a day, even in a week, of course. Temperatures are plunging right now. We're looking at low temperatures for most of the area, dipping into the 20s. So it's going to be almost like a January overnight. And for tomorrow, feels like temperatures for most of the day will be in the 20s and low 30s. Take a look at this. A few flurries trying to sneak into some of the Delaware Valley, but most of the snow today has been a little farther off to the west into central and also into the western part of the state where they actually had some accumulating snow. Still some winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings around places like Erie, Pennsylvania, but earlier this afternoon and into this evening, there were some snow squall warnings for some of those flakes flying, reducing visibility along Interstate 80, but most of the area just looking at cold conditions for this Tuesday night. We'll kind of zoom in north and west. There could be a few flurries moving through sections of Bucks County. Don't be surprised to see that, but of course, not looking at any accumulation out there. Some of the steadier snow showers have been confined out to the central and western part of the state, moving towards State College, Altoona, Pittsburgh, and once again, as you get toward Lake Erie. A live look right now, the center city skyline, those temperatures upper 30s right now for Philadelphia. The high today, only 43 degrees. That's about 10 degrees below where we should be for this time of year, and those temperatures already below freezing. Look at this. Allentown at 31, it's 21 in the Poconos. Temperatures mid to upper 30s right now. Millville at 35 degrees, 36 for Wilmington. Temperatures 36 currently for Hamilton. And I mean, last night at this time, we were looking at those gusty winds. Not quite as gusty, but we're still talking gusts 20 to about 25 miles per hour. Pretty uniform across the area. Folks are still picking up the pieces from straight line wind damage that hit most of the Delaware Valley. We'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment, but take a look at these low temperatures for the overnight. 26 degrees for Philadelphia, low to mid 20s north and west, interior parts of South Jersey. The average low for this time of year, 34 degrees, so well below average in terms of those low temperatures. This is more typical for late December or January. So, I mean, it's going to feel like the dead of winter overnight tonight. Hard to believe that we're almost at the end of March. And look at this. This is the shock. It should say tomorrow, but this is going to be the wind chill for tomorrow. We're talking temperatures that will feel like the 20s and 30s for most of the day. So dress for winter for your Wednesday. Now, here's a recap of where things were last night. This is kind of a timestamp of 9 p.m. until midnight. We were watching that line of showers blowing through the area. A lot of momentum in terms of a wind kind of rushing out of those thunderstorms. Now, we didn't have a lot of thunder. We didn't have a lot of lightning. They were low-topped thunderstorms across the area because we had lots of cloud cover. Didn't see a lot of daytime heating with this, but a lot of energy with it. So straight line wind damage was the calling card for most of the area. In fact, we were talking a little bit about some of those storm reports. Now take a look at this. As we watch that line progress, look at all of the increase in the wind damage reports, strong gusty winds with this. So pretty much every county in some capacity was hit with some type of tree damage or wires down, scattered power outages. The cleanup kind of continued across the area today. And a lot of the ground was saturated, so it didn't take much for some of those compromised trees to kind of fall over. Also compromised from our last snowstorm, which, by the way, had that heavy wet snow weighing down a lot of those branches. So here's a kind of look at the Doppler radar from that time. as that line was moving through. You see inbound going toward the radar and also away from the radar. So this is just showing you that it was just pretty much a wall of wind moving from west to east. 70-mile-per-hour gust across most of the area. So we did have one confirmed tornado thus far, an EF1, 100-mile-per-hour winds. That was in Caroline County in Maryland, but most of the other damage so far has been caused by straight line wind damage. So still looking at some of the surveys that will be coming in from the National Weather Service. They have not completed their surveys. They started in Maryland. They were also going to investigate some activity in southern Kent County. So we're going to be following that to see what they find, if they find that that was caused by a tornado damage. But right now, no confirmed tornadoes in Delaware, New Jersey, or Pennsylvania. But we do have confirmed roller coaster temperatures. Cold again for tomorrow, rebounding temperatures as we head toward the upcoming weekend as that jet stream retreats a little farther to the north. But by early next week, another little dip in the jet stream will bring temperatures chilly again. So as we take a look at the next 3 days, upper 30s, low 40s for Wednesday, 50 degrees, kind of back to average Thursday. And then by Friday, spring officially arrives, upper 50s. And look at the weekend. Temperatures will be topping out in the 60s. There might be a shower that kind of sneaks into a part of the weekend forecast, but you can see by next Monday, we're back to chilly, mid 40s, and then by next Tuesday, back to kind of where we should be for this time of year. So just, wild weather continues, and it's typical for the month of March. Bill?
I'll take it. And after looking at the 7-day that you just presented, I will deal with this type of chilly and cold. Sure beats what we were dealing with a couple weeks ago. So I'll take it. All good. And we will check back in a little bit. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. Because we're going to get back to the ongoing hearing, Save America Act. That seems to be what a lot of the people in the chat rooms, people who are viewing streaming platform are interested in. But we have a lot of local stories here that we're following as well, including one that is just, it's one of those stories where, again, we are left with no words. So our Jen Lee has been looking into an elementary school teacher who now, Jen, has some very serious charges against them.
Yes, so Upper Merion Police, they put out a news release earlier this afternoon, and they say that a third grade teacher from Upper Merion Area School District, his name is Zachary Chatone, he's 39 years old and lives in King of Prussia, that he is facing multiple charges. I'll list some of them right now. Indecent assault without consent, indecent assault of a victim under the age of 13, corruption of minors, harassment by physical contact. And just hearing those charges, you can already assume the allegations are extremely concerning here. And what the police are saying is that Chatone is accused of having a prior student of his, and the alleged date of the incident was approximately 2022, according to police. A former student of his sit on his lap during class, and it was at that point that police say that Chatone touched the student in an indecent manner. And we also did hear from Upper Merion Area School District. The superintendent sent out a letter to the community, letting them know about the charges that were just filed today. The teacher was fired today, and explaining when the district became aware, when they placed the teacher on leave, and also the support that is available for the school community. So to go over that information, police notified the school district back in August 2025, and the superintendent says immediately they placed this teacher, Mr. Chatone, on leave, and they say that he did not have any interaction with students for the 2025-2026 school year. And they also described the allegations as inappropriate touching of a student who is no longer part of Upper Merion Area School District. The alleged incident occurred around 2022, and this student victim came forward 3 years later in 2025. So now
months later, the teacher is now arrested and facing charges. The superintendent did acknowledge how concerning these allegations are and that they have cooperated fully with police. And they also emphasized that their priority is certainly on student safety. And they also said that they understand that families place the trust of their children onto the school district, and said as part of safety protocols that all district staff do hold required updated criminal and child abuse clearances. They say that counseling is also available for the school community, and they understand it will probably be especially upsetting and concerning for those students who were part of this class during the alleged allegation period. I also had a chance to speak with some people who live in King of Prussia, and they are extremely disturbed, but they also acknowledge the bravery of this student for coming forward even 3 years later. And they also emphasized how important it is for parents to have that open dialogue with their children about what's appropriate and what's inappropriate when it comes to physical touch or any kind of, emotional situation that could be involved. So a lot of people are talking about this in the community as they're finding out.
Well, and I think we all have to echo the sentiment that the strength of a young person to come forward. If you're talking about elementary school, even 3 years ago, you're talking about a child that's 11 now? 11, 12 now. You're 8 in 3rd grade. So, yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of strength and courage to come forward. And hopefully this is addressed appropriately in the very near future. Thank you, Jen. We appreciate it. We will hear more from Jen, her story coming up a little bit later on Fox 29 News, so just stay with us. We're going to take another break. I think that they are, if you look at the shot in Senate, they have been on this shot for a minute. So it appears that perhaps they have either taken a break or they have wrapped this debate for the evening, although there's still people in the room, so it seems more likely that they have taken a little bit of a recess, but we will continue to track it. I'm going to take a quick break and then we will come back. What are the trending topics? What's going on? Cam is up next. Then we will check in with some more of this discussion and debate on the SAVE Act. It's Philadelphia Live on Fox Local. We'll be back. 8:20, Philadelphia Live on Fox Local and all streaming platforms. We're taking a look at video from our international feed that is just now coming in, a reported missile strike in Israel. And what you're seeing is a live video from on the scene. You can see that some of the, I guess, the cleanup and the clearing is taking place. But that was all that we got so far. As we're trying to get more information, but the video is reporting, and the news, our feeds are indicating that it is a reported missile strike. You see right there in Israel. You see some of the specifics. You see people kind of lingering around a cleanup. Some members of the media are there. And as we get more information, we will keep you posted on that as well. One of the things that we do consistently here on Philadelphia Live and all streaming platforms is keep you up to date with everything that people are searching for, the topics that people are discussing. Our web team stays on that. Jake is here in studio with us. Cam is out there following up on a lot of the different topics and stepped up to the camera to share them with us. Hey, Cam.
Hey, absolutely. So as we know, tax season is upon us, and millions of Americans can qualify for a refund dealing from COVID-19, so pandemic days, which I cannot believe was 6+ years ago. So under this new tax code section 7508A9 parentheses D, it basically mandates a postponement of this applicable tax deadline during what would be declared a federally declared disaster period, which was that COVID period. So there's a new tax deadline for tax years 2019 through 2022, and that would have been July 10th of 2023 under a federal court ruling. So honestly, any person or business that was charged penalties or fees by the IRS between January 2020, July 10th, and 2023, they could be owed a refund. So go to fox29.com and click on that article. It is the top trending story on our site right now and all day today, and you can figure out how to get that refund. Another story that I wanted to talk about, and we have to talk about it, is Roots Picnic is coming back, and I think better than ever for this 2026 year, and Jay-Z will be headlining. Let's get excited. I mean, he's coming to Philly. Will he bring Beyonce? I don't know. That's my question. But basically, the Roots Picnic will be on May 30th to the 31st, so 2 days at the Belmont Plateau in Fairmount Park. And the tickets, pre-sales are already up right now, and tomorrow general admission, you can go ahead and get those tickets. But everyone is super excited. Jay-Z's coming, and the Roots will be there. So it's very iconic, very nostalgic for Philly, and it's going to be a great time.
It always is. Last year they had some challenges, and I think that Jay-Z coming, they moved it back to or to the Belmont Plateau because of some of the concerns with weather and lack of access and all of that. It was a little bit of a mess last year, so it's nice to see them coming back, addressing all of that, and getting right back to it, getting people excited again.
There were some complaints with it being done at the Man, so they decided to switch some things around, and I think this will be a better location as well. So we'll see how it goes, but fox29.com for more details on how to get those tickets and also on that tax refund as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a challenging location. Like, the Man's a great venue, but for that many people with bad weather, like, it was a perfect storm leading to a storm of problems. So hopefully they can get it addressed. I know you're going.
Okay, you already know. And I'm like, will he bring Beyonce? Will there be a Drunken Love, like, re-thing? I don't know, reboot? We'll see.
All right, we're going to do the chat with Cam, or Cam's Corner, live from the Roots Picnic.
You heard it here first.
All right, there you go. Let's pull some strings. Thank you, Cam. Appreciate it. One of the other things is we have a question of the day, excuse me. And the question of the day today was interesting. So there was a trending topic on our social media. You can see my social media counter right back there. It actually went dark right now. It's at Bill A. Fox29. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, my YouTube channel, Bill Anderson on TV. But we post a question of the day, and there was a viral discussion going on. So for all of the parents out there, there was a single father who had his young daughter with him. his young daughter, young, like too young to go to the bathroom by herself, said that she had to go to the bathroom. And he was left with this interesting dilemma about whether or not he takes her into the women's bathroom or takes her into the men's bathroom. And it became a whole viral discussion as to what you should do. And so we were asking some of the parents. I know Jake put it up as the question of the day. Are we getting any responses to it?
Yeah, we're getting a lot.
Okay.
We have over 100 votes on the Go vote so far.
Okay. And what are people saying?
So people are pretty mixed, actually. So on the Go vote itself, men's is actually in the lead at 48% and women's is at 38%.
Okay.
But looking at the comments on Facebook, a lot of people are arguing women's restroom, actually. They're saying just, you know, go in, announce yourself. I'm taking my young daughter to the bathroom, make sure everyone's okay with it, and then go in.
So what he did, and I posted the video on my Bill A. Fox 29 page. So what this single father did was he went into the women's bathroom, as you pointed out. He announced that he was bringing his daughter in to go to the bathroom, and there was nobody in there.
Right.
So he went into his stall, closed the door. He said while he was there, people started coming in.
Right.
And so when they did, he announced, I am in here with my daughter. 1 second, we'll be out, but I don't want anybody to be uncomfortable.
Right.
So he did all of that.
Yeah.
And then there were still some people who were just like, it was just wrong for him to go into the women's bathroom.
Listen, I think when you're a parent and maybe the kid really had to go to the bathroom, you know, you're not really thinking about all that. You're thinking what's best for my kid. I see one person say, I would go whichever bathroom didn't have a line. The people are making valid arguments for each one. Someone said this is, you know, a touchy subject. A lot of people are just saying, go to the family room, you know,
There wasn't one, and there weren't any individual bathrooms.
Right. So I personally, I think as long as there was a stall for the kid to go in, and as long as the parent, you know, announces themselves, I think it's fine either way. Whatever they feel more comfortable with as a parent, that's all that really matters. You know, just looking out for your kid.
All right, so let us know. Comments are coming in. There's quite a few of them on the Fox 29 page. You can go fox29.com/go vote. Go ahead and vote. Click on Fox Local and then vote. Let us know what you think. You also can add comments on the Facebook page on Fox 29, on Bill A. Fox 29. Some of mine so far, one person says 100% right choice. Go to the women's bathroom. They have doors.
That's a good point.
You don't want your daughter in the men's bathroom. This man announced himself and did it appropriately. Someone else, I respect the decision. I had this situation. It happened to me with my daughter. I didn't want my daughter to be subjected to going into a men's bathroom and seeing what goes on in there. And then one more person said, Bill, he did the right thing. It was done correctly. All the men's rooms are 99% disgusting. And I don't want to take my daughter in there. But there's a lot of comments. So jump on, let us know what you think. At fox29.com/go vote, the Fox 29 Facebook page, at Bill A. Fox 29 on all streaming platforms. Wow, there's a lot of.
Yeah, I know a lot of. This is getting a lot of people talking.
A lot of questions. One more. It's a tough decision, but I would probably do the same thing. But wow, that's a tough one. I know some stores have family restrooms. Maybe that should be the thing. Yeah, there wasn't one of those. And he said that he went looking for one of those. But it didn't exist. All right, let us know. That is our question of the day. Thank you very much, Jake.
Thank you.
The ongoing debate, you can chime in. We do these questions to kind of keep it interactive, get your feelings and your interaction while we are here. And obviously, the streaming rooms, the chat rooms are open. But so after the initial press conferences took place, there was a discussion back and forth in the press conferences. Both sides were presenting their views on the SAVE Act. And then it went to the floor where they started debating. And here's some, Chris, this is the Republican side. These are the Democrats. So here's what some of the Democrats had to say about their feelings about the Save America Act.
You know, when it comes to broken promises, seems like Trump and Republicans have raised every price they ever said they would lower. Costs on groceries, with Trump's sweeping tariffs, the largest tax increase on working families in American history. They sent energy costs higher by canceling clean energy projects. They sent gas prices skyrocketing by starting a new war in the Middle East. And they let healthcare premiums skyrocket for patients, doubling, tripling, and more through sheer indifference. And now, desperate to avoid the wave of angry voters who Republicans had promised lower prices and no new wars, Republicans are even going to raise the cost of voting, because their Save Trump Act would nickel and dime Americans who are just trying to vote, but have to slog through one new Republican roadblock after another. Under a Republican's bill, one of our citizens' most basic freedoms now comes with a price. And it comes with a lot of brand new hurdles that serve no purpose but to trip people up. Some folks will have to shell out for a copy of their birth certificate. Some will have to get a passport, and that's $165, by the way. Some folks will have to travel hours away to register in person, costing time and travel fare, or maybe gas costs, which Trump is now sending through the roof. And that is not the half of it. Just consider all the people who will face new challenges just to vote for no good reason. If you are a student who just moved to start college, Republicans will make it harder for you to vote. Because if this bill passes, you will need to show a photo ID and proof of citizenship in every single state. But a student ID won't count. Many tribal IDs also won't be enough under the new Republican restrictions. If you are a married woman who changed her last name, like me and the overwhelming majority of moms across the country, Republicans will make it harder for you to vote, because you would now have to bring an ID, proof of citizenship, and some additional paperwork showing your name change. That could affect 70 million people. If you are a senior who just moved into a new nursing home and has mobility issues, Republicans will make it harder for you to vote, because you can no longer just register online or by mail. You now have to show up in person to show your papers. Voting will also be harder for rural families, far from any place where they could show their papers and register in person. In Washington State, we have a lot of families who might have to take a ferry just to register to vote. Or heaven forbid, you're someone living abroad, maybe working for an American company or working at a nonprofit or even serving our nation as a diplomat. You might just have to buy a flight all the way back home so you can register. And the inconvenience doesn't stop at registration, because Republicans will make voting by mail harder for everyone as well. They are going to require you to photocopy your ID when you apply for that mail-in ballot. And then they are going to require another photocopy when you send in your mail-in ballot. At least as long as Trump doesn't get his wish to scrap mail-in voting altogether. And if you are someone who doesn't know where your birth certificate is, or doesn't have easy access to it, or if you are one of half of Americans who doesn't have a passport, that's 146 million people, you're going to have to pay fees and fill out a lot of paperwork. And what is the Republican plan for when the State Department gets flooded with record-breaking number of passport applications, by the way, because there is no money for surge capacity in this bill? What are Americans supposed to do when their paperwork gets delayed for weeks on end, or heaven forbid the president just slow walks it? And by the way, under the Save Trump Act, there's a perfectly awful chance that you do everything right and still get robbed of your vote by Republicans, because this bill pushes states to rely on a DHS verification tool that just frankly is a dumpster fire. States that have tried this got results with huge errors, where DHS was wrongly saying many citizens were not citizens. The Trump administration tool has already wrongly advised states to purge lawful voters from their voter rolls. But the biggest problem with this bill goes to its roots, because the biggest problem is that Republicans' whole premise is built on a lie. Trump has been lying for years now about our elections, lying about winning in 2020, lying about winning in states like California, lying about crazy conspiracies that have been debunked time and time again. He's been debunked by Republican election commissioners. He has been debunked by thorough news investigations and carefully conducted audits. He's been debunked by million-dollar legal cases where other liars were sued for defamation. That has not stopped Trump. And instead of calling out the lies, like so many of them once actually did, first Republicans just started ignoring this, and then they started normalizing them, and now many of them are repeating these lies and conspiracies. Mr. President, our elections are free and they are fair. That is beyond question. Anyone who values our democracy should be shouting that from the rooftops. But instead of defending our democracy, instead of defending our elections from misinformation and conspiracies and a president who has stated quite directly he wants to take control over the elections, Republicans are joining Trump in the same sort of ruse he pulled to rile people up on January 6th. The biggest fraud here is Republicans who know their agenda is unpopular, Republicans who know that when entrusted by the voters to fulfill their promises, all they have done is break them, raising prices, starting new wars. Republicans who know they will not keep their majorities in a free and fair election, so they're pushing for this bill instead. Mr. President, this is not how elections work. This is not how America works. In this country, we fight for change with our voices and our votes. And if Republicans think for a second Democrats will let them take away people's votes, they better buckle up, because you can bet we will use our voices to block this bill for as long as it takes. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.
President.
Senator from Minnesota.
Mr. President, I rise today to join my colleagues in standing up to protect Americans' constitutional right to vote and to fight back against this administration's most recent attack on access to the ballot box. Instead of making the case to Americans about policies and what you want to do and why you think it's important to have, say, the tariffs that in my state are wreaking havoc for our farmers with more yet to come, this legislation would actually be an end around of the voting process. This legislation would make it hard for a whole bunch of American citizens to vote, which appears to be the end game given what the president has said about it. By his own admission, he said that passing this bill will guarantee the midterms. That's not my quote. It's an exact quote from the President of the United States. The Save America Act will kick American citizens off state voter rolls. And how is this happening? Well, this is a complete invasion of the privacy of voters. It makes state secretaries of state give the voter rolls, the voter information, the voter data to the Department of Homeland Security, as in the same agency that brought us ICE, and then run that information through some kind of Doge-like system that's somehow going to spit back out to the states which voters they should kick off the voter rolls. Then the bill also creates these bureaucratic hurdles that make it complicated and costly for American citizens to register to vote or change their registration, particularly for the 69 million women who have chosen to change their name when they get married. Why should they be penalized? And millions of American citizens don't have the specific document required by this bill to prove citizenship, because this bill won't allow for driver's licenses anymore. You've got to produce other documents, like a passport or a birth certificate. More than half of Americans don't have passports, and they cost at least $165 to get. Birth certificates can cost $30. In my state, they're $24. And they can take tons of in-person time to obtain. Anyone that's ever had that experience, maybe for some other purpose, that you have to get your birth certificate that's not always as easy as people think. And this bill also requires people to register to vote in person at their election offices, effectively ending proven and popular methods of registration used by millions of Americans in Democratic and Republican-led states all across the country, like online and mail-in registration. This would be a significant barrier for registration for millions of voters, especially for people in rural areas who have to drive hours to get that registration completed now. Rural Americans in many places would be forced to travel an average of about 4 hours round trip, and some voters in Alaska and Hawaii would be forced to take a flight just to register in person. This bill creates chaos, but maybe that's not the motivation of some of my colleagues, but I do believe it's the motivation of the president, who basically said, quote, "It will guarantee the midterms." It's designed to make it harder for American citizens, certain American citizens, to vote. It's designed to undermine mail-in voting and lay the groundwork for this obsession that the president seems to have with banning mail-in voting, while in some states it is actually the prevailing way that people vote, including a number of red states, as the presiding officer is aware. Because the administration can read the polls, they see that there is major concern in Americans with high costs. So instead of maybe passing a different bill, which we could call the Save America's Money Act, which would be doing something about these gas prices when we know what's happened now, gas prices are up 30 or 40 dollars a barrel, $30 to $40 a barrel. And every $10 an increase for a barrel of oil is a $450 a year increase for the average American family. For the second time ever, the average price of diesel has reached $5 per gallon. Look what's happening with groceries. Electricity prices up an average of $110 last year on Americans' bills. Healthcare costs continue to skyrocket. So there's things we can do. We've got a bipartisan housing bill we just passed the Senate that need to get passed in the House. We have some permitting bills. I was long a supporter of Senator Manchin's proposals on permitting. We could get that done. We should be adding energy to the grid. This idea that somehow we're going to think that North Dakota wind is bad in a pretty red state, and then ban grants that would have brought that wind, which was good for North Dakota and Minnesota, to Minnesota with a power company in northern Minnesota. That's one of the grants that had gotten singled out and I think has just recently gotten released. All that stuff are things that we could do to help Americans with their costs. So we should be working on the Save Americans Money Act instead of this. So I urge my Republican colleagues to change course and stand with us and stand up for the fundamental right to vote. That always used to be bipartisan. And the idea that you're going to make all these people re-register or register with a expensive passport or birth certificate, that they can no longer use their driver's license, that their private voter data is sent to Homeland Security to go through some Elon Musk designed computer system. It's not what people want in this country right now. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.
8:44, those were, I should say, the speeches on the Senate floor, debates that went on for hours earlier today, both Republicans and Democrats. We just heard from a couple of the Democrats. In a few minutes, we will hear some of the comments from the Republicans. It very clearly is a big divide over this Save America Act, a bill that would require photo identification to vote, but the real sticking point would require proof of citizenship to register to vote. It would have to be done in person, and the only acceptable forms would be a passport or a birth certificate, and the birth certificate would have to have your current name. The challenge, some have said, others have said it is not that challenging to get a birth certificate. Some have said many women who have taken the name of their husband do not have a birth certificate that has their current name on it. And a marriage certificate is not an acceptable form of ID. So you would have to go through the process of getting additional passport and so on and so forth. Both sides have their arguments. It is a big divide, and it remains to be seen what actually happens as this pushes forward. So we will get back to that very shortly. But first, let's check in with sports. The World Baseball Classic is going on right now, Breland. It's right now not much going on, but it is a highly anticipated big-time game.
Yeah, we've got the United States taking on Venezuela here in the final. That's down in Miami. Scoreless right now. We just started the top of the third, so hopefully we get some action going here. But yeah, this is a big one, and I am very excited. And stars on both sides, you know. Familiar faces to Philadelphia. Of course, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber on Team USA, but guys like Ranger Suarez over on Venezuela. Salvador Perez, I covered him in Kansas City. He's over there too. So it's all really good to see. It seems to be a very exciting matchup. We're going to hopefully get some runs here in a little bit.
We shall see. We are following it closely. And with all the drama that it took to get here, it will be interesting to see if the United States can step up and get this win. Also, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but the excitement is building, getting a little bit closer to the March Madness games. You were over, or Marcus was over, I should say, on Villanova's campus today, kind of soaking it all in.
Yeah, so Marcus he's our producer. You'll hear from him coming up at 9:30, but he took a little drive over to Villanova. Of course, Penn left today, so they boarded those buses. I'm sure you saw the footage in the Fantastic Sports Show and the 5 and the 6. But they boarded those buses out, and they are on their way to Greenville, South Carolina. They will be taking on Illinois on Thursday. That's the Penn men. Meanwhile, the Villanova men and women have both made the tournament. They will both be leaving tomorrow because their first games are Friday. The women will go play Texas Tech down in Baton Rouge. The men are going to go out to San Diego. They take on Utah State for their first game. The winner of that game most likely will be getting Arizona. So really tough bracket in that West region for the Villanova men. But I think they can definitely beat Utah State, but it's going to be a tough one. So yeah, a lot of excitement. And then let us not forget about Lehigh as well up in the Lehigh Valley. They are actually in the first 4, so they'll be playing actually in Dayton. So really, really exciting all around. They have not been in the tournament since 2012. That C.J. McCollum game where they popped off and beat Duke and the upset heard around the country. So hopefully there's a little Mountain Hawk magic still left in them that maybe this time around it'll also be the same result.
Anybody who stands out to you yet? Who's the player from Penn who went for like 40?
Oh, TJ Power.
Yeah, and then hit the 3 to send it into overtime. Those are the types of stories we're looking for, right? Anybody like that who showed up in your mind yet, or do we kind of discover them as the tournament gets started?
Are you talking about in general or with our teams? Because you can
just in general, like
okay.
Any of those names that you're like, I want to see so and so. Or now is TJ Power the new?
I'm going to be really honest, Bill. I think that's the whole name of the game, right? Because the whole fun of March Madness is finding some random kid from some mid-major you probably have not watched a single lick of their games just popping off. That's the whole point. So no, it's not going to be somebody that you have heard of or somebody that you're looking at to have one of those magic moments. Your heavy hitters, of course, like in Arizona, things like that. We all heard of those guys. That's not going to be magical if they have a performance like that because that's not the point. The point is to have some random from Queens College sink 50 on Purdue. Like, that's what we're looking for. So no, we will not know those people's names because that's not the point, is to know those people's names just yet.
And then we will see them in the one shining moment montage at the end of the tournament.
Correct.
It's going to be fun. All right, Breland, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Keep us posted if anything exciting happens in the World Baseball Classic. Thank you very much. That is Breland Moore. Let's take a break. We will come back, find out what's going on with the ongoing debate. I've been in and out of the chat room throughout most of the evenings. There are a lot of really strong opinions that people continue to express about this Save America Act. That is probably the reason why it is so divided, because people are dug in on their perspective and convinced that their perspective is the right one. And if that is the case, it doesn't seem like there's very much compromise going on. And at least right now on the surface, it does not appear that there are enough votes to pass it. So some level of compromise, I would imagine, is going to have to happen, or all of this discussion and debate that we've been sharing with you starts to change some minds. We shall see, but we will get back to it momentarily. It's Philadelphia Live on Fox Local. I'm Bill Anderson. Stay tuned. .52 Philadelphia Live on Fox Local. An update on the World Baseball Classic. Venezuela just went up 1-0 on the United States. They are in the top of the third, and Venezuela is still batting with runner on third base. So this is a little bit of a possible rally for them. We will continue to watch it closely and give you updates throughout the evening. I'm actually looking off. What you're seeing me is a monitor off to the side as we are following it, and it looks like the United States just got out of the third inning. So 1 run scores, United States is down 1-0 coming to bat in the third inning. So we just heard from the Democrats, some of the comments that they had on the Save America Act, their feelings about why it should not pass, their commitment to making sure that it doesn't, using the filibuster and other tactics. And this is what some of the Republicans had to say when it was their turn to step to the Senate floor and tell their story.
Democrats have created a system in this country that has totally failed the American people, and Americans want secure elections. We must make sure Americans can have the faith that their vote counts and that the election results reflect the will of the people. We must put simple standards in place that a majority of Americans approve of, and that will help Americans trust that our elections are free and fair. And why wouldn't Democrats want to make certain that elections in the United States of America are free and fair? We want that for every other country in the world. Why wouldn't we want it here? The fact is, over the last decades, Democrats' priorities are totally out of whack with what Americans want. Under the Biden administration, Democrats purposely opened our borders, and our country was flooded by illegal aliens. The same illegal aliens that Democrats are now putting above Americans as they do everything in their power to destroy this bill. Then, when Democrats saw how enraged the American people were about their wide-open borders and all the crime they were allowing in this country, the left claimed we needed new laws to fix it. As we all know, in the case of our border security, that was a complete lie. But for election security, we do need new laws because the ones we have aren't strong enough. And President Trump on his own can't secure elections. President Trump secured our border, and now Congress must secure our elections. The facts are simple. Illegal aliens should not vote in American elections. We know it's happening, and we must do everything we can to stop it. Democrats will say it's racism, but they say everything is racism when they don't like it. Is it racist that before I board a plane, I have to show my ID? Is it racist that in order to buy certain medicines, apply for a job or a bank account, check into a hotel, rent a car, purchase a lottery ticket, order a drink at a bar, or get into the DNC convention, or shovel snow, for goodness sake, that we as Americans have to show ID? Absolutely not. And anyone telling you otherwise is lying. Now, here's my simple question for Democrats. Why should voting in our elections, something that dictates the direction of our country and is essential to building trust in government, have a lower ID standard than buying a six-pack of beer or a lottery ticket? The answer is simple. It shouldn't. When the minority leader isn't calling minorities and women too stupid to show ID and register to vote, he's claimed that we can't pass this bill because President Trump is trying to rig the elections. He's lying, and he's telling on himself. The minority leader and Democrats think that stopping illegal aliens from voting in American elections is rigging the system. Now, that's a remarkable thing for them to admit. But when they tell you who they are, we have to listen. What's clear to me is Democrats don't think they can win. They don't think they can win unless we allow people who are not legally allowed to vote to cast a ballot. Clearly, the minority leader is more concerned about what passing the Save America Act would mean for his future as majority leader than he is about election security, faith in our democracy, or delivering for the American people. Democrats, George Soros and the radical left will try to convince you that their opposition to this bill is about fairness and integrity. It's about protecting American democracy. Don't listen to them. It's not fair for illegals to vote in American elections. I don't get to vote in the French elections or the British elections or the Canadian elections. It's not fair to let men compete in women's sports. It's not fair to allow the mutilation of children with gender reassignment surgery for minors. The fact is that fairness, integrity, and our future are on the line. It's this bill that will protect them. It's what Senator Lee and I and so many others are fighting for today as we once again call on this body to pass the Save America Act. I urge my colleagues to support it. I yield back my time.
Mr. President. The senator from Montana. Mr. President, there's some issues we consider so logical and so obviously rooted in common sense that I gotta believe the American people are sitting at home and wonder why Congress is even having this debate. And such is the case with the bill the U.S. Senate is considering this week, the Save America Act. Let me be clear, the bill before us today requires proof of citizenship when registering to vote, and it requires photo ID in order to vote in a federal election. If you come to my office here in Washington, D.C., you'll see fairly quickly I'm an avid outdoorsman. There's a lot of hunting and fishing pictures on the walls that say a lot about the great state of Montana. As many know, Montana has some of the very best outdoor recreation in the country, even the world. Hunting, fishing, backpacking, you name it. I remember growing up in Montana, my grandpa and my dad had a fly rod in my hand when I was still a little boy, before fly fishing was cool even, back in the early 70s. I remember fly fishing before Brad Pitt discovered it with Robert Redford and made the movie A River Runs Through It. And do you know, if you want to fish in Montana, you want to fly fish, if you want to get a tag to hunt, you want to shoot a mule deer or an elk or a whitetail, you know what you need to get a tag, to get a fishing license? You got to produce a valid ID. To go fishing, you need a license. And to get a license, you need a valid ID. Now, nobody has a problem with this when it comes to America's great outdoors. So why does the left protest so hard against ID requirements to vote? It is explicit law that only American citizens can vote. And all Americans have an ID or the ability to easily obtain one. The right to vote and participate in democracy is a core principle of this great country. It is what gives us our freedom. It's what gives us a voice. But when election integrity is compromised, our institutions suffer. And the people don't trust the outcome of elections or their government anymore. And that is why 95% of Republicans and 71% of Democrats support having voter ID. It's truly that bipartisan. I'm not sure there's a more bipartisan issue right now facing us in Washington. People want to restore trust in their elections and their government. So why is this so hard? I'll tell you why it's so hard. Our friends on the other side of the aisle are captive to their radical base. I grew up as the grandson of a Democrat in Montana. My dad was a Democrat growing up. But this is a different kind of Democrat today. The radical base is steering the party that we debate with across the aisle here in Washington. Remember, under Joe Biden's border catastrophe, at least 10 million, and that's a conservative number, 10 million illegal aliens poured into the country unchecked. And in many states, these illegal aliens are eligible for driver's licenses, which makes it easier to illegally register to vote. And that's why you need to have proof of citizenship. That's why the Save America Act is so important. Requiring a photo ID is basic. It's common sense. It's non-controversial. It's time to get this done. I'm very grateful to my colleague, Senator Mike Lee of Utah, and my colleague, Senator Eric Schmidt of Missouri, who've been fighting so hard to get this bill across the finish line. I urge the rest of our colleagues to get on board, support the Save America Act, stand up for election integrity, and vote for the Save America Act. Thank you.
9:02, Philadelphia Live on Fox Local. Let's take a break and come back and check in next with our Shawnette Wilson's giving us an update on a viewing of the tragic loss of life of someone who is now being called a hero. That comes up next after the break. Stay tuned. 9:05, Philadelphia Live on Fox Local and all streaming platforms. A lot has been going on this evening. We've been following what's going on the Senate floor. After a break or a recess, they're actually back at it. So we will get back to some of those comments from both sides debating this Save America Act in quotes coming up shortly. But our Shawnette Wilson spent the evening at the viewing of somebody who we continue to learn more and more about. They tragically lost their lives. And Shawnette, we continue to see how people always respected this individual for their service, but now recognize what a true hero he really was.
Yeah, Bill, we're talking about Pennsylvania State Police Corporal Timothy O'Connor. There was a viewing held for him here tonight. Behind me, you can see the church, St. Joseph's Church, is dark now. The viewing was held from 4:30 to 8 o'clock, and so people really just wrapped up here, showing up to pay their respects this evening. But as you can imagine, we saw lots of law enforcement, people who knew him, but also when a tragedy like this happens involving law enforcement, it also brings out people who never met the person who has lost their life. So there were lots of people who came out, just wanted to show their respects to someone who dedicated their life. He was 40 years old. He was a 15-year veteran of Pennsylvania State Police, dedicated his life to protecting, all but to lose his own life. So there was a specific group of women who showed up. They are with Delco PA Has Your Six, which means they have your back. And they travel around, sadly, they have to do this, travel around to viewings and funerals of law enforcement, really, again, to pay their respects and just to honor the lives of people who, have had a career just trying to serve the community. So I spoke with Janice Liberato. She's the founder of this group. Her father was a police chief, longtime police chief, and she started this organization in his memory. Here's what she had to say about attending the viewing for Corporal O'Connor tonight.
It was very sad, but at the same time very honorable. Seeing all the police show up, and it's just a terrible tragedy. It's just heartbreaking. We do what we can to support the police, especially now with all the disrespect and this kind of stuff that happens. We try to show up and just to let them know there are people out there that do support them.
And Corporal O'Connor leaves behind a wife named Casey. He has a young daughter who I believe is 6 years old. I'm told that the family requested a private funeral and burial, which will be held tomorrow at this same church. But for people, the general public who want to take in on this service, you can go to the Facebook page of the Pennsylvania State Police. They will be, Bill, live streaming this service tomorrow. But it's always sad to see something like this where so many people come out. I talk to people who say that, it's a job where you leave your house every single day, and the hope of family members and of course the men and women in law enforcement is that they will get to come home to their family. This is a situation where he did not. Lost his life March 8th during a traffic stop. He was shot to death, and then investigators say the person who shot him took their own life. So just a tough situation to have here tonight for this community and just law enforcement all over, but most of us thankful for the service that he provided to the community, Bill.
Well, and obviously it changes nothing, but seeing the turnout, the coverage, the discussion, and people recognizing what a hero he was, that has to offer at least some comfort to the family to realize how well respected, supported, and loved he actually was.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. They kept the media on the other side of the street from the property, just so that people, who were very close to this situation and to Corporal O'Connor could come and kind of have that sort of privacy, even though it was a public viewing. And, we respect that. But, they are surrounded by what they call a brotherhood, the family, men and women in blue, who I'm sure will be there to support Casey and Corporal O'Connor's little girl for a lifetime.
And we will continue to keep them in our prayers. Thank you very much, Shawnette. We appreciate it. And you will see more, Shawnette, some of the video from that event. We just showed some of it, from the viewing. Strong turnout, people there just who wanted to pay their respect. And the family certainly deserves that. We continue on at about 9:10. Following all the things that are going on. One of the things that people actually are searching on the website is what Shawnette Wilson was just talking about. But Cam is up next, as we look at the trending topics and some of the other things that people are searching and looking into on fox29.com, Cam, and all of our streaming platforms.
Absolutely. So last hour I spoke about those top 2 trending stories on our site regarding the Roots Picnic and that COVID tax-related refund that people could receive. But the third top trending story on fox29.com right now is actually our Fox 29 reporter Jennifer Lee's story for tonight. That Upper Marion elementary school teacher who has been arrested and charged with indecent assault and other related offenses for an incident that occurred 3 years ago with a former student in his 3rd grade class. And so there are just things that are unfolding. A lot of people in the area are looking at that article. And of course, we have posts on social media that are people commenting and just trying to get more information for that. So our Jennifer Lee will have more in the Fox 29 news at 10, the 10 o'clock news tonight. And we will obviously keep the story here on Fox 29 updated as we learn more about this. But that elementary school teacher has been placed on leave and was arrested. And another story that we have to get to is a video that's actually trending of that crossing guard in Darby Borough who was attacked and assaulted. And our Fox 29 reporter Greg Payne was on this earlier today. And that video is being played thousands and thousands of times across our platforms on Instagram, on Facebook, and I know we have our TikTok live going right now, but that's also on TikTok as well. So people are just in shock seeing that video. Of course, the crossing guard was on duty and there were children around, there were parents around, and officials have called this a heinous act, and they're searching for that suspect who attacked the crossing guard. Just really sad moments, but police did release that video. So if you see him, if you know him, please do reach out to the police.
Yeah, and we're continuing to show it. I know it's up on several platforms, as you were pointing out. It's actually up on my personal page as well, Bill A. Fox 29. I think a lot of people are sharing this around because, I mean, that was hard to watch.
Yeah.
And when Greg was out there on the story, he said that a lot of the people who were out there, parents and others, the speculation was that the person did this simply because they had to wait and that the crossing guard stopped them from going through. Now, we don't know that that's why, but that was the report from some of the people who were there on the scene. And if that's the case, people need to come forward and identify this person.
Absolutely. Something I think about often is how, the shift in weather, sometimes we see a lot more of an uptick of crazier stories, but, there are crazy people out there regardless. So be on your P's and Q's and just really be aware of your surroundings. And, if you see something, make sure that you say something. And we will continue to do our best to report on these events and unfortunate incidents that may occur.
Yeah, that was crazy. All right, thank you, Cam.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. And as I pointed out, that video that we were just showing, Carly, can you pull that back up? That video, it's a woman who was just doing her job as a crossing guard, and you can see this man followed her down the street. She tried to run, and then essentially what can only be described as a sucker punch, just punched her, knocked her down. Now, Greg Payne, our reporter, spoke to her. She is bruised, she is swollen, but more emotionally and psychologically damaged and afraid, and said that she is considering whether or not she's even going to go back to that job. And right now, the report is, again, it's speculation, but the report is that this person was upset that she was trying to direct the traffic and stop them from going through. Again, that is simply a report from the people who were on the scene. We're going to take a quick break, and then we will come back and continue on what's going on with weather, sports, and more. As you can see, if we pull up the video, that they are still on the Senate floor debating this Save America Act. We will come back and listen in a little bit more after the break. It has been going on for hours. That is Senator Schiff there, who is continuing to speak. But we'll come back after the break, dip in a little bit more, and hear this ongoing discussion and debate. Philadelphia Live on Fox Local and all streaming platforms. We'll be back. So we're going to listen in a little bit more on the Save America vote, but just for clarity, there was a test vote, a procedural vote that was scheduled. That vote passed 51 to 48, but what that procedural vote means is that they simply voted to open debate on this bill. 51 to 48, that does not mean that the bill has passed. What that means is that exactly what you're seeing is going to go on probably for the next couple days as they discuss and debate this Save America Act. Let's listen in.
Who is struggling under the burden of federal student loan payments that are no longer affordable. Despite working full-time in a helping profession, my monthly loan payment has increased to a level that threatens my ability to meet basic living expenses such as housing, healthcare, and utilities. This is not a matter of poor planning or lack of responsibility. It is a result of a system that has become financially unsustainable for many working adults. I urge you to use your position to push for policies that recognize the real cost of living and the long-term impact of student debt on mental health, economic participation, and community stability. Well, Sarah, if we weren't spending $1 billion a day in Iran, that's $1 billion a day we could be spending to buy down your student debt, to help other kids go to college and be able to afford it, or go through training programs to train themselves for this new, brave new world of technology and AI that we are entering. From Valerie in Redwood City, she writes, I am writing because my gas bill has doubled. My gas company indicates that it has gone down. That is not the case at all. I am not able to retire because my bill has increased. I'm over 70 and a preschool teacher. I live in a condo and cannot afford solar panels. I don't turn on heaters often. I use heating pads on the floor. Thank you kindly for your help in this matter. From Kirsten in Sausalito, I heard, my husband is a first responder and law enforcement officer with the National Park Service and has served for 18 years. He currently works in the Bay Area where our income is adjusted for cost of living, but the child care subsidy is not. Our household gross income is $185,000, with my husband earning $105,000 of that. Reliable child care in Marin County costs well over $3,000 a month. And that figure does not include the basic expenses required to live here, such as housing, food, and other necessities. The average cost of a house in our area is over $1 million. If I were to leave my job and stay home full-time, we would not be able to afford comprehensive family health care through his government plan while also covering our basic living expenses. As it stands now, I am essentially working to cover health care for myself and our child, with the remainder of my income going toward childcare. I would like to see efforts made to modernize and regionalize childcare subsidies so that families serving the federal government can realistically afford to live and work in the communities they serve. From Sasha in Sacramento, Sasha writes, rent takes more than 43% of my net pay. And my biggest fear is that my pets will become sick or injured when I cannot afford their medical bills. My grocery bill went up 33% from 2024 to 2025, and that was with me making changes to cut out expensive foods like fish and red meat. As a registered voter, I am asking you to focus your attention to fix the economic freefall we are in. These are the sentiments, these are the anxieties I hear every day at town halls and constituent meetings and college dining halls and at dining room tables, in email after email, letter after letter, and call after call. Our mailboxes are full. People are scared. They are worried. They feel the constant anxiety that leaves them lying awake at night, turning over the numbers in their head and wondering if they will ever truly make ends meet. We could confront these challenges. We could turn to any one of our legislative committees and take up these issues. We could bring up any number of bills that would lower costs, make our communities safer, bring home our troops from a war that the American people never asked for, but instead, the majority has seen fit to say in the face of all these challenges that instead of solving them, they will simply take away people's right to vote. Because the American people are paying attention. They have noticed that prices have not gone down on day one as the president promised. They have noticed gas prices climbing higher and higher. They have noticed Republicans saying that this is a sacrifice they should be comfortable making. They have seen their groceries, their gas, their utility bills, their appliances, all rocked by mercurial trade policies and on-again, off-again tariffs. They know this Republican Congress's signature accomplishment, the largest healthcare funding cut in history, and billions of dollars in food aid slashed to fund a tax cut for wealthy people and large corporations, has only made matters worse. And you know what? I know you've noticed it too. You've noticed these broken promises, and you noticed that the American people are pissed. And they're ready to exercise that frustration at the ballot box to send a clear message. But the response of the majority is to try to make it harder to vote. Now that it's their jobs on the line, they're finally trying to make it harder to get fired. But by doing away with your right to vote, that's the Save America Act for you. It should be called the Save Our Political Hides Act, because that's exactly what it is. A bill to supercharge the purging of voter rolls. A bill to give the Department of Homeland Security the power to decide who stays registered to vote and who gets kicked off. A bill to kill online voter registration. A bill to kill voter registration drives. To take away your ability to register to vote at the DMV or by mail. A bill that will reject every common form of identification, even your driver's license, if you want to register to vote. A service member showing their military ID? No, that's not good enough if it isn't showing proof of citizenship. If you're one of the millions of people who changed their names, their last names, when they got married, sorry, it's going to be twice as hard for you to get your ballot. Online registration, registration by mail, registering at the DMV, voter registration drives, all these methods of signing up to vote would be illegal under this bill. 4 years ago, less than 6% of Americans registered to vote in person. Less than 6%. Imagine you live in rural California, now forced to drive hours away for even the chance to make your voice heard in November. A family vacation will now be used to get to the county clerk's office just to get a ballot. Not to mention if you can't afford to take the time off work or if you're not able to get behind the wheel. But let's say you make it to the county clerk's office. The Republican majority has sworn up and down that all they want for you is to show a driver's license to register to vote. But guess what? A driver's license won't be enough anymore. If the Save America Act passes neither driver's license or a military ID or a tribal ID, none of that will be enough to register to vote. And what about that real ID? The upgraded license that the federal government...
Breaking into this, as we've been listening to it off and on, the debate that is likely to continue for days, if you believe the reports that we're hearing. So they did pass a procedural vote that is allowing this debate to happen. It was 51-48, but that is not a vote to pass the bill. That is a vote to go on and debate and discuss. It remains to be seen when an actual vote will take place and how many votes exist to pass the Save America Act. We'll get back to that shortly, get caught up on other news and stories, but we need to also check in with what's going on with weather. It has gotten colder, but Scott, as you told me earlier, that's just March. We got to ride the wave. We'll be over it soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, spring officially begins on Friday, and we do anticipate temperatures by this Friday to be in the upper 50s. So that will be several degrees above average. But Bill, while we've been on this evening, a little bit of breaking news coming in, because we were talking a little bit about the National Weather Service assessing some of that damage in Maryland as well as Delaware. Well, the late word right now is that they have confirmed an EF1 tornado in Kent County, Delaware, around the Frederica area from yesterday's line of showers and thunderstorms that were pushing through. We were on the air talking about that tornado that was moving through sections of Kent County. Now look at all of these wind reports as well as tree damage reports across pretty much the entire area. I mean, we're talking about most of the eastern shore of Maryland, Delaware, South Jersey, as well as southeastern Pennsylvania. Some type of storm damage. You probably saw it coming into work, driving around today, chainsaws going due to the straight line wind damage through most of the area. But let's talk a little bit about that confirmed tornado. It was an EF1 with winds of up to 100 miles per hour. That's in the Frederica, Delaware area. That is in Kent County. Now, so far, most of the area, we're talking about straight line wind damage. That's still winds over 70 miles per hour causing damage across the area. And they're basically surveying that damage. They're looking at if it's in a pattern of a rotation. That would, of course, suggest that it was a tornado. But if it's more lying in the same direction, that would be more indicative of straight line wind damage. Now take a look at the EF scale. So that one confirmed in Kent County had those winds of up to 100 miles per hour, making it, of course, falling in that EF1 category. So we're watching that line of showers and thunderstorms yesterday between 9 o'clock and midnight. This is a look at the National Weather Service radar yesterday evening, showing the intensity of the winds going toward the radar and away from the radar, indicative of those straight line winds with those gusts over 70 miles per hour. That is through sections of Camden and Burlington County. Now, fairly quiet conditions as we look at Ultimate Doppler. We've seen the cold air. We've also seen a few flurries and snow showers kind of pushing through the area. Look at this, zooming in on places like Chester County, looking at a few flurries or some snow showers. Most of the coverage for the balance of the day was the western part of the Keystone State, up around places like Erie, still under winter weather advisories as well as some winter storm warnings there. 37 degrees right now for Philadelphia. Those temperatures below freezing far north and west. It's already in the upper 20s in Allentown, low 20s for the Poconos, but area wide still looking at a little gusty wind out there. And look at these temperatures for the overnight. We will be falling below freezing into the 20s for most locations. And the temperatures tomorrow are going to feel like the 20s and the 30s. So a dip in the jet stream now, but temperatures moderate as we head toward the upcoming weekend, and then another little dip as we get toward next week. So as we look at the overall forecast for the next several days, feeling like winter for Wednesday, back to average for Thursday, numbers upper 50s on Friday, and hey, we're in the 60s for Saturday, for Sunday. And then behind that system, Sunday into Monday, temperatures fall back into the 40s next Monday, and then we're back up to the 50s next Tuesday. So today, tonight, tomorrow, cold conditions, and then, not too bad as we head toward the first day of spring and the first weekend of spring for that matter. Bill, back over to you.
Not too bad. Looks like we get through tomorrow,
Yeah.
and then we're on a upward pace, so things are looking
For the
up
most part, yep.
from
Absolutely.
there. Sounds good. Thank you very much, Scott. Appreciate it. Scott obviously will continue to break it down for you in the news a little bit later on, Fox 29 News, after the World Baseball Classic a little bit later on. Now, speaking of the World Baseball Classic, time to get an update on sports. Marcus has stepped up to the camera, and Marcus, it is not looking good for U.S. right now.
No, it is not. It's currently 2-0 Venezuela. Venezuela actually just doubled their lead with a solo home run by Willie Abreu. Unfortunately, a couple of Phillies that are in, Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber, have not done much. Harper 0 for 2, Schwarber 0 for 1, as you can see the score there. So, yeah, it's not looking too good, but, I mean, we're only halfway through. So, I mean, anything could happen, Bill.
Yeah, they got to start hitting. I mean, this has been for that much of a power-packed lineup, they got to do something. Like 2 runs, knock on wood, should not be enough to beat this team.
Well, I mean,
so we'll see.
Well, I mean, we will see. I mean, lately, a lot of the last few games have been very defensive heavy, like a lot of good pitching duels. I mean, the last couple games where, like, you would see, like, the bullpen step up and shut down a lot of hitters as well. So, I mean, lately, I agree with you. There should be more offensive production. But lately, the pitching has been phenomenal in a lot of these games recently, especially over this past weekend.
We shall see. We're hanging in there. What do you think about the moves? Howie Roseman is Howieing things, signing a wide receiver 3, tweaking the lineup a little bit. Is Howie starting to cook?
I mean, as we've learned throughout many off seasons with Howie, hashtag and Howie we trust, it's all about patience when it comes to Howie. I mean, he may not always get the most attractive pick, but he knows how to fill in gaps and fill in roles when need be, and I think that's what Hollywood Brown is. I mean, he's a good speedster. He didn't do much with Kansas City, but he still, I mean, as long as his speed keeps up, he can be a great threat. I mean, you've seen the harm that Devontae Smith can do with his speed, so them getting Hollywood Brown, I think it's actually a good pickup, and it'll be interesting to see where they have him, whether or not he's a slot guy, whether or not they put him on the end to go deep for on the opposite side of Devontae for a couple plays. Who knows? But I think it's a good spot for Howie to fill in.
And March Madness gets started over the next couple of days. Are you ready? Is this your time of year? You excited?
I love this time. I mean, I know you weren't able to see it, but we just started the first 4 games where Howard was able to outlast UMBC. For those that remember, UMBC was the first 16th seed to upset a number 1 seed a few years back, but Howard actually got their first NCAA tournament win just recently within the past couple minutes. And then also NC State and Texas just tipped off as well. And then tomorrow, we have representing the Lehigh Valley, Lehigh will be playing Prairie View A&M in the next group of the first 4 games before they go into the round of 64. So just the aspect, that beginning aspect, has already been exciting. And that's not even talking about the Big 5 schools. I mean, you got Penn playing on Thursday. You got Villanova playing on Friday. Villanova women's are playing on Friday. So this is just the beginning. I mean, the first couple rounds are always the most exciting when it comes to the NCAA tournament. But especially now locally, it's definitely getting, the thrills are definitely starting to come. But yeah, me personally, I love this time. For the next just under 3 weeks, I'm going to be glued to the television. It's going to be fun. Or I also will try to even be able to go to the Xfinity Mobile Arena because, I mean, we got 8 games that are going to be in Philadelphia. I won't list them all, but trust me, there's going to be a whole bunch on Friday. Practices are starting on Thursday, so it's going to be a really exciting time just here alone.
I think we should just take off, man. We should just do our shows.
Let's just do it. Let's just
from
do it,
down
Bill.
there.
They're not
give
going to
us a little booth or something down there, and we'll just go live from Xfinity Mobile Arena.
I mean, we could do that, or we could just sit down and watch basketball games. Just put a camera in front of us and just be like, "Oh, that was a nice shot," like, "Oh, wow, that guy was crazy." Like, yeah, you and I could do that.
Be like a streaming alternative broadcast.
Yeah, except can't show the game. Just show us. Just show us eating popcorn for a whole day.
Us watching the game.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Sounds like solid programming.
Let's do it.
All right, Marcus. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Marcus Beasley giving us updates on what's going on in sports. Guys, we're going to take a break, but as you can see, they continue on the Save America Act debate. A couple of the people in the chat, the Fox 29 TikTok room, were asking, why did you cut some of the people off? Guys, this has been going on since about 3 o'clock. If we don't cut off at some point, they have been talking straight for going on, 7 hours? So we're doing our best to let you hear some of their perspective on both sides of the aisle to get a better understanding. And that's what we will continue to do after we take this quick break. It's Philadelphia Live on Fox Local and all streaming platforms. We'll be right back. It's 9:38 here on Philadelphia Live, streaming 24 hours a day, pretty much from Good Day Philadelphia at 4 o'clock in the morning all the way through the day. If things are going on, we're bringing it to you live on all of our Fox 29 and Fox Local streaming platforms. We want to get back to the ongoing Save America debate that is happening on the Senate floor, but keep in mind, this is happening because they passed a procedural vote, 51-48, that allows for this debate. The bill did not pass, but the willingness and ability for both sides to express their questions and concerns, that has passed, and this could go on for days. So let's listen in.
And with a degree of intensity that I have not seen in my entire time in the Senate, and I'm now in my 16th year here. Now, all of them are begging us to pass the Save America Act. Not in a nonchalant, haphazard fashion, but instead in a way that indicates they really feel it. They feel it strongly, in fact. They understand the need for this. And I've heard one thing over and over and over again, Madam President. Why would anyone oppose this? Who would oppose the notion that only American citizens can vote in American elections? In this room, I can't imagine any of us would think that we, not being citizens of the United Kingdom, or of Yemen, or of Japan, or of the Philippines, could vote in elections in any of those countries. Why? Well, because we're not citizens of those countries. If we happen to visit those countries, would that change anything? No, not a thing. What if we lived there for a few years, but didn't become citizens? Still not. Still makes no difference. If we're not citizens, we wouldn't dream of being able to vote in their elections. Why should American elections be any different? Why should someone who is not a citizen of the United States of America be able to vote in a U.S. election? Well, of course, they shouldn't. Look, the Save America Act takes those dynamics into account, and it says something very simple. It says that only American citizens should be able to vote in U.S. elections, and it does something very important. It makes it easy to vote and hard to cheat. You need both of those ingredients to have a good election. It's got to be easy to vote and hard to cheat. You can achieve both at the same time, just as you can chew gum and walk at the same time. But this is a whole lot more important than being able to chew gum while walking. In any free society that purports to have a representative government of any form, especially in a constitutional republic like ours, you must have both. You can't cut corners on either one. That's common sense, and yet here we are. Now, if you don't accept that only Americans should vote in American elections, then what exactly are you defending? Tell us why you want to make it easier for non-citizens to vote in our elections. But so far, what we've heard from Democrats is not that. What we've heard from Democrats here in the United States Senate chamber, and I say here in the United States Senate chamber because that's different than Democrats nationwide, more than 7 out of 10 of whom agree that we need reforms like what the Save America Act would bring about. It's only here in the capital city of this great nation, it's only here in this building, in Congress, in the House of Representatives, and in the Senate, that this is considered volatile or somehow unacceptable by Democrats. It's only these Democrats who inhabit these hallways, who serve in these 2 legislative chambers, that regard this as somehow phenomenally controversial. And what we've heard from these Democrats here is nothing but fear-mongering and outright lies. Now, whether they themselves know that they're lies or they're just believing lies others have told them, that's a topic for a different day. I'm not going to try to vet that out here. None of us can know what any other person is thinking or feeling, but I can assure you that these are, at their core, the product of fear-mongering and of lies. Now, they've told us that requiring proof of citizenship to vote in U.S. elections is somehow, quote-unquote, racist. The minority leader himself called this bill Jim Crow 2.0. Wow. What an accusation. What a crazy, absurd, ridiculous, and frankly insulting accusation. I think he owes the American people an explanation as to how requiring proof of citizenship to vote is tantamount to racial segregation laws. Racial segregation laws under the banner of Jim Crow that the Democratic Party itself forced on a substantial portion of the American population over many decades in one of the most evil legislative tirades in American history for a prolonged period of time. Why he would want to draw any parallel to Jim Crow is beyond the ability of this senator to understand. I don't get it. And frankly, the American people aren't buying it, nor should they. They've told us that requiring photo ID somehow, quote unquote, disenfranchises women. Madam President, I can't think of anything more racist. I can't think of anything more misogynistic than saying that people of color or women, whether married women or otherwise, are incapable of obtaining an ID and proof of citizenship. That is, frankly, insulting. Something that millions of Americans do every single day, often many times a day, to get a job, to board a plane, to open a bank account, to enroll in school, to shovel snow in New York City. For that matter, to go to the Oscars, the Emmys, the Grammys, the Super Bowl, almost any theatrical production, and yes, Madam President, to get into the Democratic National Convention. To get into the Democratic National Convention, you've got to show photo ID, and you've got to establish credentials showing that you have a right to be there and to participate in that event. So, Madam President, if the Save America Act is Jim Crow 2.0, then so too is the Democratic Party itself. So too are the campaign rallies hosted by my friend and colleague, the senator from Georgia, up for re-election this year, who recently advertised a campaign rally and announced on the same website that to get into said campaign rally, you would have to show photo ID. We're not getting the story. We're not getting the complete story. We're not getting anything close to the complete story, and we're going to talk about that tonight. Look, millions upon millions of married women navigate documentation requirements every single day for a whole host of reasons. To suggest that Americans, that women, that people of color are somehow incapable of doing something so basic is deeply, fundamentally insulting. And it is beneath the dignity of this chamber and all who occupy it for these arguments to be raised here in this hallowed chamber. I can't think of anything more patronizing, more dismissive, more out of touch than telling Americans that they can't meet the same basic requirements that govern so many other parts of daily life. Not just some people's daily life, but the daily lives of pretty much everyone in this country. This bill does not suppress voters. It protects them. It treats them like capable citizens in a functioning republic and ensures that their votes actually do matter. And let's be honest, there's only one reason to oppose this bill and what it does. One reason: they want to cheat. This bill makes it easy to vote and hard to cheat. They're happy with exactly half of the equation and not the other half. But you can't have both and have a functioning representative government. You can't have half of the equation and have a successful constitutional republic. It doesn't work. Now, here's today's headline from Politico. Quote, I'm not exaggerating this. I don't write the news, I just report it. Quote, why climate champions are sweating the Save America Act. It goes on to say, quote, if Republicans do ultimately succeed in getting a version of the bill passed, environmentalists and some Democrats fear it could damage the democratic process ahead of November's midterm elections and suppress the will of climate-minded voters and candidates, close quote. The level of hyperbolic panic, of paranoid fantasy from the Democrats and the media enterprises they control is telling, and it's stunning, because the only way this bill changes election outcomes is if those outcomes have been dependent on votes that shouldn't have been counted to begin with. If that's part of the plan, then I can understand the panic. That's the reality. We're closer than ever to getting this bill across the finish line. Just a few hours ago, we voted to proceed to this bill. And that is because the American people have made their voices heard. They've shown up, they've spoken out, they've demanded that our elections, their elections, be protected. Failure here is not an option, and it must never become such. Because if we cannot secure the most basic element of our elections, of any free and fair system of elections, we're inviting a level of distrust that this country cannot afford. And I would say this to my Republican colleagues: if we do not act on an issue that commands this level of support, not just from our own base, but from the entire spectrum among the American people, this level of support, we should not be surprised when the American people lose confidence in our willingness to fight for them if we fail to get it done, and to do everything along the way in order to ensure its passage. This is our moment. Stand for a simple principle. Let the American people see who is willing to defend their sacred right to vote and who is not. I'm confident that the principle at the heart of this legislation will, in fact, prevail. It'll prevail because it is fair, because it is right, because it reflects the truth, because it reflects how our laws are written and how human nature interacts with our system of laws. This is the line. We have drawn it, and we must defend it. You're either willing to say that only American citizens should vote in American elections, or you are not. There is no middle ground. Sure, we can talk about whether this word or that word would most capably accomplish what we need it to. We can argue over a semicolon here or a comma there. But unless we're talking about how to achieve the same objective of making sure that only Americans vote in American elections, we will have missed the boat in a very dangerous way. And the American people are, to be sure, paying attention, very close attention indeed, because they understand what's at stake. They understand that if their vote is diluted, it is taken from them. If their elections are compromised, their voice is diminished. That is what this bill prevents. So let's stop pretending this is complicated. It is not. If you believe, as I do, that only American citizens should vote in American elections, then this should be the easiest vote of your entire legislative career. Not just that which has passed already, but that which you are likely to see ever while you're here. Now, sure, there are all sorts of votes about, recognizing National Sofa Care Month, or this or that awareness resolution. But in the world of actual laws coming into being in this chamber, you're not going to find something much similar, much more true to this principle of being clear, of getting the message right than this one, of this being a very simple equation. We have to get this done, and we have to get it right. Now, while we're on this topic, I want to talk a little bit about why this bill is necessary and walk you through some of the legislative history, some of the history in American law and American society that have made this bill so necessary and so timely today. Because there have been times in our history when this wasn't the same risk that it is today. But it'll help if we set the table by explaining how we got here and why it is that we need this so badly, so immediately, right now. Let's start with something that happened about 33 years ago when Congress passed a law back in 1993 called the National Voter Registration Act. It's frequently abbreviated as the NVRA, sometimes known also as the Motor Voter Law. The NVRA says, in essence, that in any state that chooses to participate, and as the overwhelming...
It's 9:53, and as we approach the end of our broadcast at 10 o'clock, we wanted to bring you an update on some breaking news that is happening in our area. If we can pull up the shot, there is an overturned tractor trailer that just happened a little while ago. It's on the Pennsylvania side of the Walt Whitman Bridge. There is the video of it, or you can see, actually this is live. You can see our reporters on the scene showing the feed. Right now there are people there. First responders are on the way, or there they are, to try to get more information about any injuries, what's going on there. But you can see there are large numbers of people there. This happened not that long ago. Our cameras are there shooting it, but we just wanted to break in and show you that, again, this is an overturned tractor trailer, accident taking place. These are the officers who are kind of marking the area, and then off to the right is that tractor trailer. They're continuing to do the investigation, and obviously, guys, when we're live, we go live to the cameras that are on the scene that are shooting any number of things at the time that we go to their cameras. But this is the scene right off to the right of what our photojournalists are showing right now is the overturned tractor trailer, and the investigation as to what exactly is going on continues, and we will bring that to you as we get more information. Let's take one more break, and then we will come back, wrap things up neatly here on Philadelphia Live on Fox Local. It's 9:57 as we head into the home stretch here, Philadelphia Live on Fox Local, and this is the shot again of the breaking news that we're talking about. There is an overturned tractor trailer. It is right there on the Pennsylvania side of the Walt Whitman Bridge. You can see that first responders are there. They're continuing on with the investigation. Not sure exactly what happened as of this moment because it is just developing. It just happened a few minutes ago. And we are getting all of the information, and we'll continue to keep you updated throughout the evening. Of course, we will have the Fox 29 news coming up after the World Baseball Classic. So that's one of the things that we are looking into that is happening right now. I also want to show you the video again of a story that we told earlier about the crossing guard who was simply doing her job when this person, as you can see in the video, approached that crossing guard, chased them down the street, and then this man punched that woman, knocking her down. She said that she is physically okay, swollen and bruised, but emotionally concerned and damaged. Not sure if she's going to go back to her job. People on the scene said it appeared that this attack took place just because the individual was upset that she was stopping traffic and was delaying him, I guess. Like, that was speculation from people on the scene who witnessed it. But the reason we're continuing to show this video is because police are asking if you know anything about the person or have any additional information, please come forward because nobody has been arrested or no explanation has been given for that. And then finally, the thing that we have been tracking throughout the day continues on, and you can follow it if you would like to. This is the ongoing discussion about the Save America Act. It is a citizenship voter ID, a whole bunch of things wrapped into one bill.